BSL round of 24, Group B. That's what's on the menu today, guys. Of course, I'm Jip. Joining me is resident statistical guru, Seriosity. Seriosity, good noon to you, I guess. That's like 1:30 there.
Yeah. Well,
How's it going, man?
hi everyone, and no, everything's going well. We're gonna cast here another group instead of me and Niall against me and Gypsy. Gypsy, of course, yesterday advanced out of his group. Sweated a little bit, I think, but in the end, it was pretty easy. And here we have a pretty stacked group. We have DarK, cRoSs, UltrA, and KwarK. And yeah, what do you think about this group?
Yeah, I'm actually super excited about this group. First of all, we have representation from the three major continents. We had these continent battles earlier this month between Europe, South America, and North America, I guess. And we have one player from each of these regions. cRoSs, of course, from Canada. DarK, an up and coming Bolivian Protoss player, quite decent. I've played him a decent amount on the ladder. Of course, we have the resident Chilean Terran UltrA as well, who has had a decent showing in the past couple BSLs, but hasn't quite made a breakthrough performance just yet. And, the resident Englishman, KwarK, Artos's nemesis, basically. So it is actually quite a hard group to call, I feel like. I think probably a heavy favorite heading into this group has got to be cRoSs, right?
Yeah, cRoSs shows very, very high skill in general, but especially in ladder, very aggressive player, gets really high up on the rank. Hasn't shown that same level in BSLs, unfortunately, has been eliminated preemptively, I think.
Yeah.
But I think this is the time we'll see cRoSs make a deep run in the BSL.
Yeah, that's quite. I think cRoSs hasn't actually made it through the round of 24 yet, even though he has had 2 or 3 BSL appearances, if I remember correctly. And, we're talking a lot about cRoSs because I think recently he's just kind of dramatically increased his skill, at least as far as his MMR goes. Like, he's hit 2700. He's also been playing quite a lot with Bonneth. He is in Soul Clan, and I think people have seen him practice with the likes of Bonneth and with the likes of other really good players and doing really well for himself. So definitely he has the skill to make a deep run into BSL. But as you know, Seriosity, as I know, it's not just skill that's important in a tournament setting. It's much more than that. So we'll have to see if cRoSs can kind of manage the other aspects. But of course, there's 3 other great players, and DarK is this up-and-coming player from Bolivia. Have you seen him play? Because I know I've played him on ladder, but I'm curious if anyone else kind of knows of him.
Yeah, DarK is a Protoss player from Bolivia. Used to play ZVP. I think he switched to full Protoss. He has improved significantly in the last couple of years. For a long time, he was maybe the second best, third best Bolivian player. But I think up there with Rainer, he's currently either best or second best. Like, he improves a lot.
Yeah, he's quite decent. And from my experience playing him, he does try to play pretty much standard. He tries to play a solid macro game. But cRoSs, honestly, I know we're hyping him up. I don't know, maybe this is NA bias as well. But cRoSs, when he's on his game, he's absolutely killer. And especially in this matchup, ZVP, we all know, can be extremely tricky for the Protoss early game, especially against aggressive Zergs. And, cRoSs, in my opinion, he's become this sort of he's like the Zealot type player, like the 9 drone type player. Like he's just maximum aggression, maximum early game, pressure. All his timings are super tight early game. So I think DarK is going to have his work cut out for him. But I think if he can manage to get cRoSs past that early game stage, he might have a decent chance.
Yeah, that's true. cRoSs is someone like Bonneth, where he'll get an early advantage and then he'll never cede it. he'll just press and press and press, and then you just get overrun. That's the type of player cRoSs is.
Yeah, so of course, Revolver is going to be the first map here, and it is a best of one. So Revolver is an interesting map. It's a really, really cool map, in my opinion. And from talking to Scan and also from watching a decent amount of pro games, I think the consensus is slowly coming to it being kind of like a reverse. Like, you know how typically the matchups we perceive them as, Terran beats Zerg, beats Protoss, beats Terran kind of thing. Like there's small imbalances.
Yeah.
It's like reverse statistics. So like generally Zerg is pretty decent versus Terran on this map. Protoss is pretty decent versus Zerg, and Terran's pretty decent versus Protoss on this map. So I think from that perspective, PVZ on this map, you have that ramp leading to your natural, which is always what you want to have as a Protoss player. It's much harder to do 973. And then also the third base is kind of tucked away in a very defensive position. So I think this is, if there's a map for DarK to get a nice win on, it's definitely this one. I think this is probably going to be the hardest map for Zerg, or for cRoSs to play Zerg versus Protoss on, because 973 is just not that good on here, I don't think.
No, it's not really viable. You have the 2 eggs at your natural that make the choke really small, and then other than that, you have that ramp, which is impossible to cross. So we're probably going to see a longer game on this map. And of course, it is best of one, and it looks like we're ready to jump into the first game. All right, in the top right, we have the blue Zerg cRoSs.
And in the bottom right, we do have this yellow Protoss player, DarK, already sending a probe out. No, okay, we actually just are 50 seconds into the game. Sorry, I didn't even notice. Pylon getting put down here. What do you think about that pylon placement? Can he actually get the gate and forge to the left?
I think that's just a bare minimum. But yeah, it's a little bit curious he would place it that close to the Nexus. Yeah. I'm always a little bit concerned. Modern maps at least tell you where the Nexus hatchery command center are gonna go. Not likely to see any confusion there. It looks like cRoSs was gonna go for hatch first. Unfortunately, he gets scouted and he has to go for this awkward 11 pool and an in between kind of build. So yeah. DarK, realizing this, he can probably get away with a pretty fast Nexus before cannon.
Yeah, do you think actually in this situation, well, generally you go probe scout, that's indicative of like a forge expand, but can he get away with a 12? No way he can get away with a 12 Nexus on vertical spawns, right?
No, because then cRoSs will just pull drones and then shoot down the cannons while the links come. It's not possible to go 12 Nexus when you... Oh, but he is denying this hatchery, which is very annoying. You can see this is already about 10 seconds of hatchery. Oh, there we go. Perfect from cRoSs. And looks like the wall will work. Looks like he's going to seal off the left side, and then you only have to worry about the small ramp. Of course, vertical distances on this map, the rush distances are very short. So we got to be a little bit careful. I see DarK actually kept making probes. So instead of going 13 Nexus, he's probably going to have to go cannon then Nexus.
Yeah, which is... it can be okay, I guess. That cannon placement is pretty far forward, though. He's going to have to pull a couple of probes probably to block that ramp against the Zerglings. And, I hope this is going to work out for him. Can be a bit dicey, but it looks like cRoSs actually is taking his third hatchery. Only made 4 lings, getting his gas up. So, all in all, I mean, looking at this position right now, DarK got that first scout in really nicely and got some harass, but who do you think, is this just pretty much even, or do you think someone came out ahead?
No, I think it's pretty much even. Slightly delayed hatch, but I mean, cRoSs already got a probe kill and DarK has to send another probe out. He actually does get it up. cRoSs not blocking there, not on top of it. If this probe gets in the main, it's going to be a little bit annoying for cRoSs if he wanted to do something unorthodox, but looks like he's actually delaying his gas mining. He has, a couple things here. Can he block? No. Just mineral walking and he gets right into the main.
Yeah, he's gonna get into the main. DarK, of course, I think this is his first BSL, right?
No, he played in a BSL, but very long time ago as
Very
well.
long time ago. Okay.
Like a pro league. But
yeah. So but it's probably his, let's just say it's his comeback, I suppose. So definitely in this situation, is gonna get tested by cRoSs. But it looks like so far, like the predictions that I made are out the window, Sari, because it looks like cRoSs doesn't really seem too interested in pulling the trigger. Of course, this map doesn't really allow for it, and he's going straight for a lair. So this is about as standard as it gets or at least as passive as it gets for Zerg vs Protoss.
Yeah, and I mean, cRoSs did something a little bit strange where he didn't mine gas for a really long time. And then once the probe came in, he started mining gas, but he went lair anyway. So I'm not really sure what he's up to. And DarK here, he's very secure here. Link's going to have a very hard time getting in. Hydra's as well. So he's probably just going to go Stargate. He did have +1 spinning already. That's a pretty fast +1. There's the 4th hatch from cRoSs. And no +1 air from DarK, so not likely to be a heavy investment in mutas. And against a player like cRoSs, this can be a little bit risky. cRoSs is very good with his mutalist control, so I'll have to see where that goes. And okay, this makes sense. This makes sense. He's not going to go Spire to defend the Corsairs. He's just going to go Hydras, but he's going lair anyway. This is something Hero used to do a lot. It's like fake Spire.
I feel like there's a lot of Zerg builds these days, ZVP, that kind of deal pretty decently with Corsairs. I've even seen, like, I don't know if you've seen the Spore defense.
Yeah.
Like that one's one that I like. It's really interesting. But some players like to go 3-hatch lair Spire. Some players like to go this kind of faster 4th hatch with the Hydra Den, now faster 5th hatch. Looks like Zealots picking a skirmish with a couple of Zerglings out in the middle of the map. That will force the Zealots back. But, DarK doesn't necessarily want to throw these Zealots away. I'm sure he's teching up to his Citadel, so you want to still keep them alive to have kind of more of a punch with the Zealot speed upgrade.
Yeah, especially with the opener he's doing. He's not actually going for 1-1, and he's not getting a second gas. So he's getting 1 Corsair, maybe 2, and then following this up with a really fast speed lot timing, where normally Protoss is on 1 gate at this time. He's on 4. And cRoSs is doing, like, this is somewhat of a soft counter to what cRoSs is doing, because normally you just punish this with mutas. But we see cRoSs doesn't have a Spire.
Yeah, this is pretty much, as you said, looking good for Protoss, actually. And do you think, recently we've seen some Protosses rush +1 armor, but I highly doubt that's what's going to happen here, right?
No, if you're going for a timing like this really early, you want +1 weapons, because +1 armor is decent against Lings and Hydras, but +1 weapons is just, any Lings that are made are not going to matter. And look how many Zealots he has. It's going to be 7-15, and he has about 12-13 Zealots with 4 incoming. cRoSs has to be careful here.
Yeah, cRoSs, however, is not being too greedy with his drone production. You can see he has a decent amount of Hydralisks. As long as he has decent SimCity, I think he should be able to hold. It's really hard to push up this small ramp as well as Protoss, but this 3rd base looks quite undefended. Creep Colony is late. Zealots pushing up here. Kills 1 Hydralisk. That's a lot of Zealots, Sari. And I don't know if cRoSs is going to have enough to defend. That's so many Zealots. Hydras forced back into the natural here, and DarK in pursuit. It looks like he's going to pick off even more Hydralisks before they get to the cover of that Hydra Den and the hatchery. But now, behind the wall, should be pretty safe for cRoSs. Pushes back that attack without losing too many drones. The Sunken does finish, so I feel like DarK maybe got a bit baited there because the 3rd base was wide open.
Yeah, I think he should have just gone straight for that 3rd base, not chase the Hydras. cRoSs was only buying time there. And here we go. Now we have another attack, but cRoSs has, I think, enough Hydras. He actually droned up here, but...
Oh, no.
Okay, the Hydras. The Zealots getting on top of the Hydras. Decent surface area. +1 not done for the Hydras. They do have range now. And looks like he's going to kill a couple Zealots, but I think this is perfect for cRoSs. It looked extremely scary there if DarK had just gone for the third. But cRoSs bought himself enough time, and now we see DarK making cannons to defend from the incoming counterattack. But questionable decision there to chase the Hydras. He really should have committed. And the natural had really nice SimCity, because if cRoSs SimCity at the natural were just a little bit worse, like the only area they had to get in was between the Hydra Den and the hatchery. So good by cRoSs and very nice defense.
Yeah, and you can see DarK maybe has a bit of those tournament jitters. His mineral count was getting quite high. All in all, though, it was pretty decent for Protoss in that he did kind of prevent mining from the Zerg player, right? And also forced so many Hydras early on. Of course, you never want to lose all those Zealots, but you know, thinking about the fact that cRoSs basically hasn't had full saturation and he was on 5 hatcheries for a long time, I think DarK bought himself enough time to basically get his infrastructure going. But when we look back at his base, he had like 1,000 minerals. His gateways were lagging. So I feel like kind of a missed opportunity to really boom into this mid game. That being said, though, he does have Templars. He was getting the energy upgrade as well. So that's good for DarK, and he's now also getting into robotics. But his supply count is a bit, a bit small. To be honest, he doesn't really have a large standing army, and generally though, it's not that big of a deal. Protoss just wants to eventually spend their resources and get a big ball off of 2 bases, and pressure the map. But on Revolver, I feel like you definitely want to play towards that 3rd base, right? As Protoss, more so than try and go for a big bust.
Yeah, and yeah, it's what you said. Following that attack, DarK could have had his 8 gateways up already, and he probably didn't need that many cannons had this attack gone a little bit better. But now he's macroing up. He's switching into Dragoon Templar, which is perfect.
Actually has 10 gates, Harry.
I think he has 9, right?
No. Yeah.
With the 9 and then natural. 10. Yeah. But he's probably gonna kill the one at the natural so he can actually get out. Yeah. I don't think he's gonna go through that small choke, and he's getting something at the forge. Is it +1 armor or +1 or +2 weapons? We see +1 armor is a lot more common, but no, looks like he's actually going for +2 weapons. He's killing the eggs, so that's a way for him to get out. And cRoSs now taking his 4th, so you can see cRoSs has been slowed down a little bit. He's only taking his 4th now, which is his 7th hatchery. He's still at a very healthy drone number, 46. That's perfect for 3 base. And we just see he's going to continue making Hydras and Lurkers. He has a soft contain here down the small ramp, which is basically impossible for Protoss to move down. So he's going to go through the other side. I like this one shuttle. He can mix in something like 3 Zealots and a High Templar, or 3 Zealots and a DT, and harass while he pushes out to distract cRoSs.
Yeah,
there we go. +2 is done. And
what do you think about this +2? Like, does it actually help with any breakpoints? I feel like is he going to kill Lurkers that much faster? He's going to kill Hydras that much faster? I feel like these days, +1 armor is just, and +2 armor is just a much better scaling option, right?
Yeah, the logic between +1 armor and +2 weapons is that +1 armor will make your army live longer against Hydras. You're reducing Hydra damage by 10%, and Hydras attack faster than Dragoons and Zealots. So it's probably more important to keep your army alive longer than have it punch a little bit harder. Generally, that's true, and another reason is because Storm is really the damage dealer here.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why we saw the switch into +1 armor and then even +2 armor. That's what I'm talking about. Here's a 4 Zealot drop. This is going to distract cRoSs, and this might allow DarK to break through a little bit easier. Like you see, cRoSs has to divert attention and units to deal with this drop, and can DarK actually break through here?
Well, DarK has had some decent attacks, right? Like early game, he had that big Zealot attack that bought him a lot of time. Now this shuttle is buying him a lot of time, actually killing a decent amount of drones, and generally that was just 4 Zealots. That was a really cheap drop. But DarK kind of struggles to multitask behind this. Like, he should be pushing out simultaneously. Now he's kind of doing it right, like after the drop was dealt with. Not too many Zerg units here for cRoSs. I must say strategically this is a pretty questionable decision from cRoSs. Like, it's hard to have 2 simultaneous contains. I don't think that's how you should be playing this map, and he's getting a bit punished here.
Oh my
it
god,
looks like,
cRoSs really should
oh
not commit
my
here.
God.
Huge storms going down on all of this.
Fast
like,
storms, and cRoSs looks like he's really desperate to stop his third base, but the storms just eradicate the Zerg units, and you know, DarK's gonna be sitting pretty here, man. He could just sit here, take the Nexus, and maybe even take the fourth base as well on the other side. Kind of a blunder from cRoSs, man.
Yeah, huge blunder, I think, trying to commit so much to that. But the thing, if cRoSs were to look at the game timer, it's almost 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Protoss is about to mine on his main and natural. Having them take a third is not that big of a threat. The only threat here is for Protoss to double expand, and I think that's the play, especially after winning or breaking out so easily and then getting those storms off. If DarK were to double expand here, there's nothing cRoSs can do.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, I think this is why Revolver is such a decent map for Protoss. Generally, Protoss has such a hard time establishing multiple bases, but with the high ground, it's very easy for Protoss to kind of just sit there and defend, right? It looks like DarK is going to push out. If he gains access to this high ground in the middle, it'll be much easier for him to get a fourth base. Nice storm on top of the Hydras, and cRoSs just seems like he doesn't have the supply to deal with this.
Yeah, cRoSs way too aggressive. We do have the lurkers at the other ramp getting some free shots on reinforcing army, but you can see the Dragoon mass is still alive. Do we still have storms? As long as we have a couple storms, this should be an easy breakthrough for DarK. It looks like he's pushing through. Observer's still alive. There's only a couple of lurkers left, and cRoSs is still reinforcing this location. I think he really should just pull back, but he does have these lurkers on the right side.
Yeah, well, those three lurkers are not long for this world. A couple more Zealots joining the fight. Goons on top of the lurkers, and looking at the supply real quick, Zerg is struggling and also lost total map control now. Protoss can basically run around the map uncontested, and that opens up new expansions as well. So we'll have to see, what does DarK want to do from this position? Does he want to press his supply lead, or does he want to sit back and take another base? I think they're both valid actions. Of course, we are getting close to probably mining out his main, so it would be nice for him to secure that fourth base, and that's exactly what he's going for. And now Seri, I mean, honestly, cRoSs is looking like he's in a really bad spot. How do you think Zerg should come back from this situation?
So the upgrades are probably the only thing that are going to help cRoSs here. He is 2-0, +1 for the links. He started +1 carapace. DarK has not been on top of his upgrades. He stopped at +2. cRoSs, if you're equal bases against Protoss, you need to be on Hive. Otherwise, you're going to have a really tough time in the mid game. Like Hydra Lurker does really well when you're ahead on bases, not on equal.
Yeah.
You can see this, the cRoSs is going to still be on 4 bases. DarK is going to mine out his main in that. So even though they're on equal bases, Zerg still has slightly better mining. And I mean, he's just going to have to rely on having good fights, because the army advantage for DarK is going to be massive.
Yeah, well, DarK honestly looking like he's in a really good position here, and that's going to be great for him, honestly, if he ends up winning this game. And I mean, power to him. He's playing an excellent PvZ here, despite, you know, of course, when you haven't played in a tournament, in so like a tournament like BSL, and as long as DarK has, you know, getting back into it can be quite nerve-wracking. And it looks like game one, you know, from my experiences, I tend to have a lot of jitters, so I'm quite impressed with how DarK is dealing with this game. It doesn't look like he's nervous at all. He's playing a really solid game, taking that expansion, not getting too ahead of himself. You know, you do tend to want to run away with an advantage, like, okay, I just killed a bunch of my opponent's units, I want to go and end the game. But instead, DarK kind of playing passive, playing the solid line here, expanding, and he's basically getting himself into a nice position. But likewise, I mean, is this a bit too comfortable for Protoss? Because cRoSs looks like he's getting up to 150 supply. He's getting a 5th base himself.
Yeah, the only thing concerning here for DarK is his upgrades. Because if he had double forged at any point after taking his 3rd, which is a normal time for it, he would be working on 3-1 right now, almost having it complete. But instead, he's still on 2-0, and Zerg is about to get Hive and Cracklings. And he's on a timer. Like, he has to go before Crackling finishes. He still has this army advantage, but now it becomes a little bit awkward to attack. Zerg has enough supply to cover all the areas. Like it's he's still gonna be breakthrough here. Like that's a nice storm.
Fat storms. That's only 5 lurkers. 3 already go down, so only 2 remaining. And cRoSs has to shift units here to hold this high ground before Protoss pushes in. But those storms are just on point. Look at these storms, Sari. He's just absolutely mauling all the Zerg units down. And I like how DarK is just not committing with all his units, just playing that passive kind of solid game, just storming first. And now after he cleans up more of the supply, morphs a couple Archons, I think he's going to go for round 2 and take this high ground. Though I don't know if he knows that there aren't that many lurkers left. He's still playing quite passive here, but I do like that DarK is setting up a couple of cannons at bottom left. It looks like he's going to take a 5th base off this, so just being a really patient player. I really like how he's playing.
Push and expand. This is how you play PvZ and mid to late game. You don't really have to commit to killing them. You just trade efficiently and expand, and that will work for a really long time. I think he's having too many high Templars. It hasn't been him yet, but you do want to mix in Archons here as well. You did make one with the high Templars. Yes, Storm loses that Archon there, and he's gonna be able to break through here. And can cRoSs move his defenses around to contest this army? Does he have a Nidus? Will DarK go top left or will he go top middle? The +2 on those links, these should have cracked. This is what I'm talking about. The Protoss army doesn't have armor upgrades, so these links are going to be extremely terrifying.
Yeah, that's the one big blunder in DarK's game this game, is he just doesn't have upgrades. Okay, it looks like armor is going to finish soon, but it's lagging behind. That's why, you know, generally in this matchup at this point in time, Zerg gets cracked, but Protoss should be on +3 armor, to be completely honest with you, and we're on +0, so it's going to be really much harder for Protoss to get into the late game, despite his huge lead, quite frankly. But you know, you can't skip on that infrastructure, whether it's buildings or upgrades. You got to get those things rolling. Looks like +1 did finish. I do wonder if he has a second forge, because without that second forge, it's going to be almost impossible for Protoss to contest the late game at this rate. cRoSs looks like he's stabilizing. He does have 64 drones to the 57 probes of DarK. So, you know, slowly but surely, despite DarK playing a very, very solid game, looks like it's kind of slipping away from him. Though there is no Nidus at top left, so it looks like cRoSs is going to lose this base.
Yeah, and cRoSs has an interesting decision here. Does he just go counter? Or does he actually try to defend the space? Because if he goes to counter the 4 from DarK, there's almost no defense there. And if he tries to contest, he's going to have to deal with Storm and going up a ramp. And you can see how difficult that is for him. And looks like he's trying to save the base, or at least try to pick off some stray units. And the Nidus is complete. DarK is not on top of it, but that's actually only the first side of the Nidus. There's no way for him to defend the space now.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. cRoSs, and again, like you mentioned, Sari, cRoSs could have went for that counter, and he should have just pulled the trigger. There's no way. Once the Protoss got into position, there was no way to contest that without a Nidus. And now it looks like DarK has, you know, not enough units quite yet to defend against this attack, but it's gonna buffer for maybe additional reinforcements. Looks like DarK is going for an attack himself, but actually these Zealots get on top of the Hydralisks to do trade. Dark Swarm goes down at this 1 o'clock position.
Okay, this is where it starts going poorly for Protoss. Like, he's defending for now, but this is chaotic. This is not what Protoss wants. Protoss wants Zerg to be on the defensive, and chaos like this, you can see the links, how quickly they kill the cannons. And now with these lurkers, just 3 lurkers set up are going to be very annoying for DarK to deal with this base. And this is a dead base, and this was not a huge commitment of army, and now it's going to be equal bases again, which is perfect for Zerg when they can trade efficiently like this with these upgrades.
Yeah, Revolver is a tricky map, Sari. I feel like it's not like most maps. You can do big attacks to mains and still have time to reinforce, but I feel like on Revolver it's just such a wide map, such a big map, and the bases are really kind of tucked away, that you have to be much more careful when you commit your whole army to one corner of the map, because it leaves you so defenseless, so wide open. And that's exactly what cRoSs used to counterattack. And it looks like what looked to be a dominating Protoss position has slowly turned back into Zerg's favor, because cRoSs also has this 3 o'clock base set up now at mid-right. And, you know, if he starts mining that and puts a couple lurkers there, it's going to be really problematic for Protoss to deal with it. And with the fighters out on the map, I mean, this is when it gets really difficult. And look at the upgrades from cRoSs. I hope that DarK has upgrades himself. No, he's stuck on 2-1, man.
Yeah, 3-1 about to finish, but no second forge. cRoSs is going to be 3-3-3 pretty soon. And you can see he senses his upgrade advantage. Like, there's no reason for Zerg to commit to continue attacking, but fights are good for him at this time. And you can see how punishing it is to get these lurkers on the high ground. DarK is losing everything. He can storm, but he can't really push through. And I mean, it's slowly falling apart here for DarK. And like you said, going to the main is a huge commitment. He could have done the exact same thing with only a handful of zealots and then just zoned out the army. But he really committing your army in Protoss like into a corner, it just opens you up to a counter. And I mean, cRoSs is dominating now. DarK does have 2 bases in the left side, but he has no map control, and map control late game against Zerg is really important. Without it, you can't deny Zerg expansions. You can't really safely secure anymore. He's going to go to top left again, but again, not a super important base here.
Yeah, and I can't believe how quickly this game turned. It looked so good for DarK in the early game, in the early mid game, and even in the mid game. But as we got closer and closer to this late game situation, it just looked like Protoss started kind of fizzling out for no clear reason, some positioning errors, and now bottom left is threatened. That Reaver is doing a lot of damage, but just one Reaver. The cannons do go down. Of course, buildings don't have upgrades, so later, you know, as the game goes on, static defense actually becomes weaker, and cRoSs will burrow a couple lurkers here, and these 2 nexuses are not long for this world. And of course, DarK, mined out at his main, mined out at his natural, it's gonna be out of money.
Yeah, and look at the Zerglings, 2-2, about to finish 3-3. And other than the big counterattack, I think that was a deciding factor in this game, the upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, the upgrades have been huge, and it was just a huge blunder, honestly, for DarK as he GG's out. To stay on that 1 forge, I mean, you know, I don't think it was just the 1 forge being a problem, but the forge wasn't even upgrading continuously.
Yeah, if it had non-stop upgrades, he would have probably had 2-2 and probably even 3-2 at the end there, but instead just finishing 3-1. And I mean, against Zerg, once they get those cracklings, you really need to be ahead on upgrades.
Yeah, well, I mean, not all is lost. Of course, that's set 1. DarK played phenomenally well in the early to mid game, so hopefully he can kind of take solace in that and ride it into the losers match. But that was surprising. I thought that was really close, actually, considering that cRoSs has just been kind of a monster lately, especially in this matchup. But you can see that cRoSs, without kind of that early game presence, isn't, you know, as scary. And Revolver just wasn't that. Revolver is the anti-cRoSs map, I feel like, in ZVP. So, you know, from cRoSs's perspective, he must feel pretty good about taking down just a straight up macro game, though it looked dicey at times.
Yeah, very, very well. I mean, I wouldn't call it a comeback. cRoSs was definitely behind, but yeah, he kept the game going long enough so that his, I guess, multitasking advantage would shine through, and it really felt like that. And now we're going to go into our second match, and this is also going to be interesting between UltrA and KwarK.
Yeah, I don't know about you, man, but I'm looking forward to this one. Of course, this season, we have brand new pictures for the players. And I gotta say, these 2 guys look absolutely menacing. I don't know. How do you feel about this matchup?
Okay, so for a long time, UltrA was the best Chilean player. Maybe still there. Him and Tech, very, very skilled players. TVP, though, is UltrA's weakest matchup. And KwarK, his PVT is not his best matchup, but he does bring out some crazy builds, and if Ultra hasn't faced them, then he's gonna have a tough time dealing with them early game. Late game, of course, I think Ultra's superior, I mean, just multitasking APM will help him win, but KwarK has a lot of builds he plans out, and best of one, a very scary opponent.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Revolver is going to be the map, and Revolver honestly is really good for Terran, but it's hard. Like, it's very hard. TVP is the kind of matchup where you can be really good at it, but it's hard to be consistent at it, especially in a tournament settings, because TVP, Terran, you have to just be really, really solid at all stages throughout the game. And if you start making kind of like these nervous calls, or your mechanics are not on point, or you're not being as patient as you should be, or whatever, you can get into that snowball situation where Protoss just wins one fight because you misposition yourself as Terran, and they start snowballing and killing everything. And KwarK, I know, likes to do stuff like go just mass arbiter recall into carriers. And honestly, if that type of strategy can very easily snowball. So we'll have to see what Ultra has prepared here for KwarK. I don't know. I haven't seen Ultra play TVP, actually.
Well, he plays standard, but his builds are, I guess, not up to date, I would say. Probably why he struggles the most. He has decent mechanics. His macro is not an issue. It's just build optimization, and that's about it. And KwarK, I mean, I think this is a perfect map for his 12 Nexus build. Are you familiar with it?
The one where it's not actually a 12 Nexus, it's a 2-gate?
The one where it's actually 10-15, but you have a second Nexus, that one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Well, yeah, I am familiar with it. You think he's going to whip it out? The problem with Revolver is it's quite hard to do those goon busts, right? Like, compared to most maps, because you have to go around to the big choke.
That's true. So the rust distance is a little bit, well, significantly longer. You can't go up the small ramp, but we'll see. I mean, Ultra, from what I remember, he's a Rax Expand player. Sometimes he'll go factory and siege expand, but Rax Expand is what I've seen him most likely to do. He does like macro games, not likely to see a cheese.
Well, the players are ready, so we'll get right into the game. Ultra versus KwarK on Revolver.
All right, in the bottom right, we have the red Protoss KwarK.
And in the bottom left, the Chilean Terran, it is Ultra. So, Sari, man, honestly, okay, first of all, I was glimpsing over to Twitch chat here and there, and, they're playing bingo. And one of my, my things is that I keep saying, honestly, and now I'm super self-conscious about it, man, but I gotta be honest with you, dude. TVP these days, especially on these new maps, is quite tricky because the gateway, the Zealot openings into Nexus, the 12 Nexus openings, all these are very technical and very difficult to deal with. And like you said, KwarK is the type of player that also mixes in that 2-gate 12 Nexus, which actually you don't want to bust as Terran. You want, like, when Protoss goes for like a kind of like cutting everything double gate like that Nexus, as Terran you can even factory expand and you're probably still going to be ahead of workers. So it's a mistake to actually pull and try and kill the Nexus. But it takes a lot of, let's say, presence of mind as Terran to kind of navigate that space, I feel like. To like know, do I attack? Do I kill the Nexus? Do I just sit back? But it looks like KwarK's not even doing that. He's just building a gateway and gas.
And Ultra actually doing the same Rex and gas. And I mean, early game, the thing is, Terran units are extremely weak in low numbers. So like Marines suck against Zealots. You need 4 or 3 with like pristine micro to deal with one Zealot. Add on top of that a wall so you can actually micro. and tanks lose straight up. Like one tank will lose to one Dragoon. So everything about early game for Terran is weak. It's basically you have to have good decisions, what to do with your units, depending on what you scout. It looks like KwarK not scouting. Oh no, is that top left? What is that top left? Is that the probe?
That's an SCV.
No, that's an SCV. So KwarK not scouting, and Ultra gonna go for both adjacent spawns. So this is pretty much a scout where if you scout 12 Nexus, you can go ahead and go for the kill. Basically, if it's cross map, it's nonsense to go cross map with SCVs to kill a Nexus.
You think KwarK's been talking to TT1 lately? Because TT1 is the type. Okay, it's a joke, man. I don't know. You know, TT1 likes the no scouting, but it looks like KwarK is going to put down the Nexus. That looks like a no range Nexus.
Yeah, right? No range Nexus. Ultra gets all the information here. Now, what do you do against this? It's just a fast Nexus without range. This is basically.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything you can do, honestly. I think I was gonna say. I think the Dragoon expansion in general, like the Goon range and Dragoon expansion, is slowly becoming like very out of meta. Like it's probably the weakest option. So I was thinking, well, KwarK is probably doing the worst build he could possibly do in the current meta, because it's just not it's not really threatening. You know, a lot of Protosses like to get the Zealots early. Okay, that's actually a really fast Stargate.
Is that +1 then, and not even range?
No, it's
okay.
Range.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I do like that he went for this Nexus before Dragoon range, though. That is very trendy as well. Terran doesn't really have an option. I mean, maybe the only thing that could punish this is like a random 2 factory. But besides that, it's not like, you know, even as an SCV scouts the Protoss, you're not gonna be like, okay, well, this guy doesn't have range, I'm gonna go kill him. No, that's not really how it works. But this Stargate is insane, dude.
So like the only thing I can see punishing this is a 10-10-10, which no one does anymore, especially on this map with all the ramps you have to push up. But basically you can do 10-10-10 and go with one tank, and Protoss won't have range when you push out. But that's about it, and that's like a really obscure opener for Terran. Looks like Ultra just playing standard and KwarK denying the scout there, and this is a really fast Corsair. Is this? I mean, how does he follow this up? Because this could just be a scout.
Yeah, but what are we
actually
scouting?
Be going D-Web. I don't know.
This is insane. Basically, this Corsair is replacing
the Observer.
No, I have to say this. Yeah, KwarK he's a very smart player. You know, he has these kind of out there ideas about the game, but they're very decent ideas. And obviously here, like the Stargate pretty much costs less than robotics plus an observatory, and it comes earlier. But and this can rattle the Terran player, you know, like Ultra might be like, what? But the reality is also, again, another bingo, is that you need detection for mines. I mean, that's why you go observers. You know, it's not really for scouting information. It's mostly to deal with mines. So now the Terran player knows you have a Stargate, which is a lot of information, because again, you still need robotics at some point. Now, honestly, if I'm in Terran's shoes, you know, and it's hard to have this presence of mind, especially when you're in a tournament setting and someone's kind of flying a Corsair around your base and you've never seen it before. But you know, there's no robotics, there's no Reaver, there's no reason to get Goliaths, there's no reason to get turrets because there's a Stargate. You can kind of rush straight into more factories and make vultures and start getting real hard map control, or you can rush your third base really fast. And looks like instead, though, Ultra's kind of just playing the standard line, which is also fine. You know, as Terran, you can kind of just play a solid game and not care about what your opponent is doing, and as long as you're executing right, it'll always be strong. But yeah, interesting opening from KwarK, but it's just going to transpose into a very standard game. I don't like that Ultra does not, he's not getting into vultures, and you really need to start getting mines and like map presence at this point.
So his opener delayed detection and got a lot of tanks. So, but he's following this up with armory as well. So this isn't a timing. This is upgrade style, but Like you see, it's 7 minutes. He's only now going into vultures,
Yeah.
which is fine. It's okay, but not gonna have mines. He could have gotten away with murder with an on-site third against what QwarK is doing. QwarK has no detection, like you said, but instead he's just playing the same build he planned on opening with, and I guess that's fine. Like you do what you're most comfortable with, but you really have to, what's the word, improvise. Depend on what you're saying. It looks like we're actually going for a lot of factories now, and he does have the scanners to see what QwarK has, and QwarK went for this really fast third, and he's also teching really fast. So his gateway count is a little bit low. Also investing into +1, only now going up in gateways. QwarK did skip Robo, but he's gonna have observers pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, looks like this is gonna be a timing from Ultra as +1 finishes. He has 5 or no, it's 5 factories.
Yeah, it's 5 factory timing here with the +1, which can be a decent option, but against arbiters, against fast arbiters, there's not really a 2-base timing that you want to go for, at least without a starport. You know, against fast arbiter, if you want to do a 2-base timing, you should do the 2-1 like science facility, science vessel push. That's much more consistent. But against fast arbiters, if you don't have a starport, eventually it's just very, I wouldn't say it's consistent. Whereas, you know, when you're going up against carriers as Terran, it's much more consistent to go for 5 or 6 factory. That's generally the main line. So I don't know about this decision to go into a 2-base push, especially on this map. I mean, it can be strong if he gets the low ground position and sieges the natural, but you definitely want to take a 3rd base against arbiters usually. So you know, if I were a betting man, I'd definitely bet on Protoss in this position. I think Protoss has what QwarK has what he needs to win this game, but this is decent harassment from Terran.
And nice harassment here. Basically, Terran is on a timer. If this attack doesn't do a significant amount of damage, then Ultra's just way behind. It's not gonna scale well into late game. QwarK has basically everything he needs for late game. He's already set up with arbiter tech.
Stasis, man.
Yeah, Ultra has to go now. Basically, when he went to that 3rd, he should have already been pushing. And it looks like QwarK has how many gateways? That's the only thing that's a little bit concerning. It looks like he's on 8, which is a decent number. He did get harassed, so he has only 51 probes, which is fine. He really shouldn't make any more probes as he's dealing with the timing. And looks like Ultra is ready to go now. The Arbiter should have about 80, 85 energy now, almost with that stasis.
Yeah,
it's like 100. So yeah, he's ready. He's ready. Ultra has to be super careful with how he attacks here.
Against 1 stasis, I mean, 1 stasis can take out 3 to 4 tanks. The supplies are looking good for Terran, but again, the Arbiter is going to put in so much work. You have to consistently scan as well. Here comes the stasis on the back line. 4 tanks, no vultures with this attack. It looks like Ultra just miscontrolling. Most of his units are in his main. Total disaster for Terran.
And the bunker still, like, oh man, this could have gone a lot differently, but unfortunately for Ultra, just not. Like, he pushed. He tried to get really fast out on the map. His units didn't cooperate, and now he's getting overrun. Looks like the Arbiter did go down, so that's one good thing, but these tanks are going to get cleaned up.
Yeah, and that's it, honestly. I mean, with no 3rd behind this, with no starport, no upgrades, and Protoss having 3 bases, this is just impossible for Terran to come back. You know, he's going to fight this out, but losing these 4 tanks now, it really, I mean, Ultra is, I mean, he's like in a black hole. He's like past the event horizon, you know, like you would have to basically bend the laws of physics to get out of this game, I feel like.
Yeah, it looks like Ultra trying to harass, but QwarK is well defended at this base. He has a cannon there set up, and I like how QwarK played this. He really didn't make probes or over make cannons to deal with harass. You just had to deal with this 1 push. And Ultra, I mean, he's still making SCVs, which really doesn't make sense. I think he's just in like what's the mindset where you're just playing automatically, you're not really thinking about what you're doing. Like, making all these SCVs doesn't really make sense. And Does he have a third? I think there's something at his third, but no. No
I
command
mean,
center there.
I think Ultra knows where what position he's in. I think he knows this game's over. You don't want to leave the game because it is a tournament game. Looks like he's adding more factories, so oversaturating is fine to the extent that you're using it to produce out of more factories. But without starport, I mean, he's basically having to build turrets because, yeah, there's just no vessel coming. +1 plating is on the way. Yeah, man, I mean, this is, I know it's like a very cliche gypsy thing to say, but this game's very over, man. Like, unless, barring a huge throw from KwarK, I can't see Protoss ever losing this game. Looks like KwarK is taking his 4th base, which is exactly what he needs to do. He has 1 Arbiter, probably has a couple more, another... Oh, he's going for a recall, actually.
Yeah, this should be the nail in the coffin here.
No defense at all, no mines. The turret is not enough to stop the Arbiter. Units are inside of the Terran's main. And probably the 2nd Arbiter has enough for a stasis as well, I would imagine, so... not quite. But, I mean, recalls are generally not cost efficient. So this is going to get cleaned up by Terran.
Yeah, and KwarK is most important here is not to lose the Arbiters. And looks like he's already lost 1. And okay, this one's going to escape at least. So not a great recall. He got some SCVs and a depot. But I mean, he can do anything and still be ahead. Taking a 4th, he could transition into carriers, he could get more bases, and just the constant threat of a recall is scary enough that Ultra has to respect it. You can see he's going to make turrets and lay some mines, but it's not enough.
Yeah, and it just sucks, man. It really sucks being Terran in this position. I don't know how else to go about it, but again, without upgrades coming and without a 3rd base, without science vessels, the one thing that does... Arbiters are an insane unit in this matchup, right? But it turns out that vessels can EMP them, and then they're the most garbage unit in the matchup. But we're nowhere near getting EMP. So the scaling Arbiter count is... Okay, that Arbiter actually just died to the turrets. And all of a sudden... Wait a second. KwarK doesn't have an Arbiter with his army. It's pure Gateway, man. Has a couple of Templar, though. That might save him. But this attack could kill a base.
Yeah, it's only 9 gateways. That's another thing I'm concerned about. But again, this Terran army is without +2. This is really not that scary. Like Ultra can slow push this. KwarK shouldn't be panicking here. Like all he needs is a good engagement and the game ends. He doesn't even need this base. He does have Storm. If he can get a couple good storms here, it looks like the Zealots are moving forward. Eating some tank shots. He's getting a little bit clumped up at the bridge. Haven't seen a single storm yet.
Yeah, no storms quite yet, but oh, that storm whiffed, but 2nd storm connects with the tank. The tank line was definitely disjointed there, and when you're pushing up a high ground like that and don't have buffer for your tanks, the Zealots get really good trade. So all of a sudden, Ultra's army got cut in half. Looks like he's gonna try and continue forcing the issue on this ramp instead of maybe threatening the natural. It's hard to say what you should do as Terran, but Ultra is playing... He's playing it out, man. I mean, he is taking that 3rd base. He is leapfrogging turrets. That's the one nice feature about Revolver is you have a lot of space to build turrets on.
I mean, but I think the play here is do this, not commit, because you can kill the natural and the 3 o'clock if you can just contain the Protoss. But he always has to worry about this counterattack. Like Protoss can just go through the bottom side of the map and counter, which is exactly what KwarK is doing here.
Yeah, KwarK's going straight for the main, but I mean...
Oh my god,
good move, but the reality is that it's just so hard to attack the natural on this map. So even Ultra is totally caught out of position here, but still has a decent defense, and probably the rally units from the factories are going to be just fine to defend, though that Arbiter stays alive with stasis. Storm goes down on a bunch of SCVs. Ultra's economy kind of taking a huge hit here. 46 SCVs, 44 SCVs. Has to bring back a couple of units. More storms go onto the SCVs, and Ultra all of a sudden kind of losing his entire economy. KwarK is going to defend against these tanks as well. And, you know, KwarK holds on to his 4th base now. 67 probes, a huge bank. It looks like Terran has run out of gas.
Yeah, I mean, the counter was always the play there, and splitting Ultra's army just made it a lot harder for Ultra to deal with any kind of attack. And now he should be able to break through pretty easily. +3 is actually almost done for the Protoss army on top of that. And even if Ultra can start mining his 3rd, like, it's just game over here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's just so hard.
I mean, good attempt. It did look like he was making some moves here with this push, but now it's just, he's going to get overrun.
Yeah, and I mean, 1-1 mech, just not as threatening as you would want it to be. Nice move from Ultra. He might get this Nexus if he targets it, but these Zealots are in position. He will get the Nexus, though, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Like, this was a much stronger play. You just go for this base if you contain them, or if you deny them access to their small ramp, it becomes a lot harder. But now the 3rd from Ultra is under attack, and he just has no units.
Yeah, and honestly, as Ultra, it's just this type of game. It's hard. You want to sit it. You want to stay and play the game out, obviously. But he was playing from such a major disadvantage that, you know, he's kind of coming back here, in a sense. But I don't think Terran ever had a real chance at winning this game, and you know, we're just prolonging it. Maybe it's helping him deal with his nerves. Personally, I would just get even more tilted, I feel like, but we'll see. I mean, yeah, there's, again, Ultra's gonna run around with a bunch of vultures, but he is at 54 supply. I mean, for sure he knows it. KwarK knows that this game's all but over. It's just a matter of time, but Ultra probably, you know, it can help you to kind of play the game out, to just kind of get your mechanics going, kind of get the jitters out a bit. So I can respect the fact that Ultra is sitting in this game, but it has been a uphill battle this entire time, I feel like.
Yeah, so despite the Corsair opening, KwarK actually just played pretty standard.
Yeah.
He got to... The Corsair might actually get a kill here. He got to the point you want to get to as Protoss. He just went an unorthodox way.
Yeah.
And
well, definitely. I mean, Corsair is cheap, and you want to have a Stargate at some point, but I feel like skipping the observatory is
it could have been punished. Yeah, it could have been punished. It just wasn't. And
well, that and like in these days, right? GG comes up from Ultra, but these days, I mean, it's such a huge tell if you go for a Stargate, you know, because the reality is PvT can be played a number of ways, right? Like there's mini style where you're just skipping Stargate. There's like the double robo style. There's like, do you go for just shuttle without speed, shuttle with speed? And for Terran to already know that, hey, there's not going to be shuttles, there's not going to be reavers, already narrows, and there's not observers. I mean, that already narrows down so much. So Ultra, unfortunately, was not able to capitalize on that in this game, and KwarK is going to take the win, which sets us up for
huge match.
A really huge match. And this is actually a rematch from, was it last season or was it 2 seasons ago? Yeah, so there's a season, I think last season or the season before, where KwarK was in a group with cRoSs and Striker, and to everyone's surprise, he got out of that group first, playing both cRoSs and Striker. So you know that cRoSs will definitely want revenge here, though it must be said that that was a best of 1. So best of 3, cRoSs, and KwarK did blindside cRoSs with like this insane proxy gate play off an expansion. Good Night is going to be the map. How do you feel about Good Night PvZ, Sari?
I think it's slightly Zerg favored. It's nothing like Revolver. Revolver, I think if this were Revolver, KwarK would have a much better chance. I'm going to say cRoSs is going to abuse his multitasking advantage this time. He's not going to get caught off guard by some strange opener from KwarK. And I mean, this is a good series. Like cRoSs after losing last season, like he's circled this.
Yeah.
He's circled this and he's ready for this matchup.
Yeah, for sure, right? Like he wants to have that revenge. And cRoSs again, like ZVP, we gotta say he's just such a monster in this matchup. Though looked a bit shaky against DarK, so I am a bit how would you say? I mean, I am a bit worried for him. But again, it is Good Night, not Revolver, so that's gonna be good for him. What do you think KwarK is gonna come up with, man? Like, what do you think KwarK is thinking about? Like, is he gonna, KwarK? That's the thing. KwarK is such a mind game player. You gotta respect that, and he's good at preparing, and he's good at thinking about the game. So I'm sure he's gonna have a creative build lined up for this as well.
Well, he has a build he does, but it's no longer something viable because everyone already knows what it is. But the first time you play this build, you're gonna lose 90% of the time. He did this build against even pro gamers, and he always ends up in an amazing position.
Yeah.
Like he goes Stargate, but gets a really fast Citadel Archives, and then he hits your third with like 4 DTs and 3 Zealots and 3 Corsairs before you have maybe 4 Hydras.
Yeah.
And you just get caught off guard. But that build, everyone has that build in their mind when they're playing KwarK. But he also has this new build where he goes +1 armor right away, and then he gets a second forge really fast. So he hits 2 armor and 1 weapons at around like 10 minutes. And if you're not prepared for that, all of a sudden you have this really strong Protoss army that you can't kill, like just attacking you.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what he pulls out against cRoSs. I know these two have definitely played a couple games since their BSL match. Oh, are we ready? Okay, so let's get into the game. It'll be cRoSs versus KwarK, game 1. Good night.
All right, in the top right spawn, we have KwarK as the blue Protoss.
In the bottom left, cRoSs as the red Zerg, seeking revenge for the last match that they played in BSL.
So it's cross map, 4-player map. Of course, they don't know this, but are we going to see Hatch first? This is a good map for it, but...
We saw that cRoSs definitely wanted to go Hatch first last game, right? Well,
mind games.
Mind games. KwarK, of course, he likes the all chat button. I'm curious if cRoSs is the type to ignore other players or not.
I think you should type squelch KwarK_UK if you're cRoSs here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm totally in that boat as well. That's my go-to tactics, Ari. But I ignore almost everyone I play on ladder. What is the name of this? Well, cRoSs, I have to say cRoSs is also kind of a shit... well... We already let that one rip, but he's also a bit of a smack talker. So I think I don't think cRoSs is someone that gets too phased by this type of chatting. And if anything, cRoSs is the type of player that I could see cRoSs killing a drone in a tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like the game starts, he kills a drone off, just to talk smack. So I think cRoSs definitely is not too phased by that, and it looks like it is going to be Hatch first.
And KwarK is going for Forge, but without a scout. And this is a pretty bad build against what cRoSs is doing. Like, this is a blind. No, this is a blind counter to 9-pull, and cRoSs does like 9-pull. Like, he 9-pulls a lot in every matchup basically. But what KwarK is doing is just something you never see anymore. Like you usually see Forgeless or Forge Scout or Pylon Scout, but you don't see no Scout double cannon. This is like I don't know if all the chat was to make cRoSs 9-pull and then he whips out this build, But
Yeah.
I don't know. This just, other than 9 pool or 5 pool, this build just is not good.
Yeah. I do like it though. I do like, there's some players that have such an easy time just saying, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. Whether it's an all-in or whether it's like a hard read on their opponent, and they don't mind throwing a game away just because of that. And there's other players that are like, no, they try to play to win every game. KwarK isn't the type of player that tries to play to win every game. He tries to win like the game, like selective games, right? And if this doesn't work out, then that's fine. He still has 2 more games to fall back on, but definitely KwarK is going to start at a disadvantage here, build order wise, but it's not the worst thing, right?
Like,
how far behind would you say KwarK is right now?
Economically pretty behind, because normally you just scout hatch first and you go Nexus first yourself, or you cannon rush. You don't go double cannon. Like, he could have gotten everything up a little bit faster. It's like he's not even gonna have a tech advantage, which is something you have against 12 hatch. But I mean, it's playable because he hasn't suffered any damage.
Oh my god, wait, did you see that? He's actually going straight for that second gas as well.
Okay, so maybe this is this armor first? Maybe this is his armor first build.
The thing is, his Nexus is so late, right? And like his probe count isn't ideal. It is going to be very taxing on his economy. Look at that.
Oh my god.
With 3 probes.
I mean, he probably should send some from the main. Like, he has 12 on minerals here. Just send 3 and then you have 1 per patch.
Yeah,
he's not optimizing the build. And the forge is spinning, and it is +1 armor. So this is his new build, where he rushes that +1 armor and gets a second forge really quickly. He's scouting with the probe to make sure it's not Hydras. Like, speed is about to finish here. That's a pretty big tell that it's not Hydras, but the probe is going to get into the main. He's going to see everything.
So cRoSs is definitely, I mean, I don't know if I've seen a lot of his ZVP recently, but it is surprising to me, after not having watched him for a while, to see him kind of go lair both of these games. Because he really just is generally so aggressive, whether it's Ling all-ins, whether it's Hydra busts. This time around, though, cRoSs is playing very standard macro builds both games. So I don't know if that's like if cRoSs is doing like a thoughtful choice here to like confuse his opponents. Because for sure, if you're in this group with cRoSs and you go and you watch his games, cRoSs does stream and he's played a decent amount of games in tournament settings. You can kind of figure out that he's a very aggressive player. So I wonder if he's like on purpose changing up his style.
Okay, so this looks like Muta, and I mean, KwarK, look at KwarK's build. He's gonna start on archives right now, so he could get +2 started right away. And we have KwarK still making courses because he did Scout Spire. And now cRoSs, second forge and archive. So this is the build KwarK has been doing. cRoSs, on the other hand, is going to open Muta, which I think is good. And then he has an option whether he goes for more drones and a 6 hatch, or he could just follow this up with an all-in. It looks like he's getting sunkens, and he still has a very nice economy despite all this. Despite making those 2 sunkens, like 12 hatch is a very nice opener. And how many mutas did he actually make? Is it 5 or 6? It's like just 5 with Scourge support, so he can one-shot those probes. KwarK is prepared, and we see he started +2 weapons, +1 armor. Like, he's really delaying everything just to rush these upgrades, but he's gonna hit a timing with this with these upgrades.
Yeah, Protoss. I mean, you can see also by the supply. KwarK is. I mean, they're even, and Protoss generally has a supply lead. So I think the crippled economy, let's say, or like the small build order disadvantage compounded by this super investment into double forge is the reason why the supplies are so close. So that's always a good thing for Zerg. But as you mentioned, Sari, KwarK is going to look to hit that 2-1 timing, and you know, when you have strong timing, strong upgrade timings like that, it can make up for a supply deficit because your supply is going to be that much more efficient, right, due to the armor or the upgrades. So we'll have to see if KwarK can convert that into winning the game. But I would say cRoSs, because of the opening, definitely has all the tools at his disposal to win the game if he plays well. So we'll have to see here.
I mean, he's already at 45 drones. He's just going to make Hydras from here. What's going to happen, though, is that cRoSs's +2 armor is going to finish like slightly ahead of cRoSs's +1 weapons.
Yeah.
Like, that's how far ahead KwarK is on upgrades. And you can see how that timing is going to line up. The only problem is he just doesn't have any units. Like, he really needs to pump out those gateways. Like, he's up to 5 now, but 5 is nothing. He really should be on 8. And what is this? That's male. Okay, so I mean, this is so one thing that could hurt KwarK here is switch into mass muta, because he just doesn't have anti-air. So he's covering all his bases. He really doesn't want to lose until, like, he wants to get this large army out and just win with this. This is the big move here.
Yeah, I do like how cohesive the build is. You know, KwarK has a plan, and he's kind of converging everything towards that plan, and that's a really solid way of playing StarCraft. But again, I feel like he definitely gave away quite a bit in the early game build order, to where, again, like cRoSs, if he plays perfectly from this position, should always win. Doesn't really matter what Protoss does. So that's the only drawback. But of course, that, you know, that's an idea. You know, that's the theory, but executing it is a much different matter. And when, you know, a player such as KwarK is working towards a specific plan, maybe cRoSs isn't used to that. You know, that can definitely give KwarK an advantage, like despite having kind of a disadvantage in the game. So a couple more mutas pop out, like you said, Sari. It looks like cRoSs did go for that switch, since he saw that there was the Corsair count was basically so little and there was no +1 on them. But Dark Archon is going to cover KwarK a bit here, provided he can land a Maelstrom.
So KwarK sees, cRoSs sees the move out, and he knows the Dark Archon is now out of position, and this is like one of the weaknesses. Like, the mutas just have to stay away from the Dark Archon, and they can raise the main here over and over again, just constantly threaten a counterattack. Looks like the Scourge don't land, and cRoSs now has to be careful. Looks like the Dark Archon AI, the pathing AI. Oh, can he get it? He almost got it from downtown, as Nyoken would say. But it looks like just able to get away. And I mean, +2 armor is done, +2 weapons just started, but cRoSs has a 20 supply advantage here. And I mean, upgrades are great, but having a lot of units is also great.
Yeah, this was really nicely done from cRoSs. It looks like such an innocuous move. You know, when you're watching the game as a spectator, like, oh, of course the Mutalisk would go there. That's the one weakness that Protoss has. I mean, it's so obvious. Because cRoSs is going to do that. But I mean, it takes so much skill to know exactly when to abuse what position. And cRoSs is the type of player in this matchup that knows exactly what's going on off his scouting info. So he knew he could go straight into the main and get some damage done. And now he's rotating and denying this third base. cRoSs is playing so well, man.
Yeah, because say, for example, okay, so you say, okay, they don't have Corsairs, mutas are a good choice, but they have this Dark Archon. And if you're attempting to snipe Templars with the Dark Archon, with the mutas, all of a sudden, your plan to make 11 mutas completely falls on its face. But cRoSs, too smart for that, realizes, okay, why are Corsairs good? Because they kill mutas, check, but also because they're extremely mobile. The Dark Archon is a pretty clunky unit. It's going to have a tough time going from base to base. He has to be careful here. Oh my god.
He's actually... oh my god, the Storm. He needs more than one Storm though to clean this up. Does he though? No, just kidding. Storm's insane. And that's 9 Mutalisks down the drain.
Okay, but that's 18 supply that just died, and cRoSs still ahead.
The advantage is unreal for cRoSs right now. We'll have to see when he wants to pull the trigger. I think cRoSs is gonna wait for the upgrades. You know, the players, of course, are always constantly clicking on their opponent's upgrades to know what's up, unless you're Terran, in which case you don't care. Like, you're playing TvP, you're like, I don't care what Protoss's upgrades are. But obviously in PvZ, cRoSs might be waiting for +2, but it looks like he's just gonna go. Feels confident enough to try and get a Lurker contain off. But it looks like that's a lot of Hydras. Lurkers do get burrowed, and not a lot of Protoss units here. And it looks like KwarK's supply is evaporating.
Yeah, so he has really, really strong upgrades right now. 2-2 versus 1-0 Hydras. But if you get caught out of position, it doesn't really matter. Like, you have to go through a Lurker field. There's nothing defending this natural right now. So he's going to push through this Lurker field inefficiently to defend his natural. Otherwise, he just dies here. And it might just be too much. This is a 50 supply lead for cRoSs here. And
GG.
That's it. GG.
KwarK taps out. cRoSs goes to a quick 1-0 lead. And really impressively done there from cRoSs. I gotta admit that KwarK's build was interesting. Blind counting the 9 pool, but didn't quite work out. And going for that Dark Archon, cRoSs knew instantly where to go with his Mutalisks. But that being said, I mean, he still had like a huge advantage from the early game. You saw the supplies were even throughout the game, and Zerg quickly overtook Protoss, and KwarK never really got to doing his timing push. You know, he got his upgrades. The Mutalisks came at the same time, ravaged his main, and then KwarK was like, well, I can't really deal with this, and he tried to go for an expansion instead of pushing.
Yeah, I think if he switched to Dragoons earlier, and instead of trying to go for a 30, he would have just gone for push. Like 2-1 against unupgraded Hydras is extremely strong. Yeah. But the Mutas kind of changed the game completely. Like, KwarK was all of a sudden pinned, couldn't really do anything, just stuck in his base, and cRoSs 4 bases, 55 drones, and he just won.
So, one game away from getting his revenge, cRoSs is, and one game away from the round of 16. KwarK, it's going to be his map pick, and you know how the format is. I mean, the BSL map pool, there's 7 maps, and the winner of this first set gets to ban 1 map, and then the loser gets to pick their map. Now, what do you think KwarK is looking at here?
I think Revolver. It's got to be the pick. Maybe Ascension, but Revolver.
Yeah, Ascension is another possible choice. Ascension's a pretty decent Protoss map versus Zerg. I think Ascension in general is actually a very balanced map, right?
Yeah, it's pretty good. But he actually picks Heartbreak Ridge. He's got to have something planned.
Dude, I had a feeling that he would pick this. I had a feeling, but this is the most cRoSsy map in the map pool.
Yeah.
What do you? What could he possibly be thinking?
I'm not sure, but we're gonna find out.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the game, guys. Game number 2, cRoSs versus KwarK.
All right, in the left side spawn, we have the red Zerg cRoSs.
And in the right, blue Protoss KwarK. So, Heartbreak Ridge is possibly one of the best Zerg versus Protoss maps ever made. In my opinion.
Well, it's very difficult for Protoss. Just early game because of how the map is made, how hard it is to wall, the threat of the back temples.
Yeah, explain exactly what Protoss is trying to juggle in the early game, because there's a mineral patch. So maybe there's some people that don't really remember this map, but there's like a mineral patch in the back of the base, right?
Yeah, so that can be mined out, and then Zerg can go through there. So for a long time, you actually needed 2 cannons to just defend from early game. Mm-hmm. And then the second cannon would have to cover the ramp that's behind your natural.
Yeah.
On top of that, like, there's also a temple. So if those temples are killed, same thing. Lurkers getting behind there is really obnoxious. Like any kind of lurker drop play. The way the map is, like, it's really hard to zone out Zerg in the mid game. Zerg can always go for a counterattack because there's 2 paths in the middle of the map. And I mean, everything about this map is hard. Early, mid, and late game, like drops, taking other expansions, splitting the map is really difficult. Looks like cRoSs is going to go for overpull. We did get a normal Pylon Scout this time, and he should be able to get away with Nexus before cannon in. Looks like, oh, is this drone actually going to die? Looks like both pull back. cRoSs actually, I mean, QwarK actually went directly for the assimilator or the Vespene Geyser because he knew if cRoSs tried to regenerate, it would be going there, and then he would block that and kill the drone maybe. So a nice move there. And then we see 13. So should see those first links coming out and the first the Nexus with the first cannon. And the timing will work out. Like the rush distance isn't super short or anything.
Yeah, this cannon should be on time. I noticed QwarK did check the back mineral patch with the probe to make sure that the drone wasn't mining. So you can tell that QwarK, well, I know QwarK played Striker for the Continents battle on this map. So definitely has had some practice against resident BSL legend Zero himself. I remember watching Zero play a lot of games versus QwarK. But QwarK definitely knows what he's doing. I think actually the probe can range the drone mining the mineral patches at the back. So it's good that he's aware of that. But
okay, this is 6 slings. This game can end.
Oh, he doesn't have any probes. He's just gonna
Okay, so a couple things. One, the probe didn't block the wall, and even if he did that, I think the links could have gone through the top side and then just surrounded the cannon and killed it anyway. So GG, I guess.
So cRoSs makes it into the round of 16. cRoSs finally, man, he got his revenge from last season, I guess. And I think this is, so correct me if I'm wrong, right? This is the first time cRoSs made it into the round of 16, right?
I think 2 seasons ago he did make it into round of 16, but then like he lost to, I think it was an all Zerg group and he didn't advance. Yeah. BSL 11, I think.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm
7, 8, and 9. Okay. Well, never mind, guys. I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel like because I remember in our NA Discord, people were trolling cRoSs about not making round of 16 the last couple times. So, but good result here for cRoSs. He is gonna make it through quite convincingly too. I feel like that game versus DarK was the hardest game he had today, and it looked really dicey. But against QwarK, I think managed to see through his mind games and just played a solid game to victory. QwarK is not done though. He is going to be waiting the winner of DarK versus UltrA, which is going to be our next series. But first, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, so don't go anywhere. Yeah, I would have. Welcome back, guys. We are getting into this losers game. Well, is that what it's called, man? I don't know. Let's
Losers
talk about
match.
losers match. It is, but between two winners. It is DarK versus UltrA, playing for their tournament lives here. And, you know, in the losers game, we do play on Aztec map 1, so that's going to be interesting. Aztec, kind of an older map here. DarK versus UltrA, though. UltrA didn't look too good against KwarK. I feel like, you know, maybe that was tournament nerves or whatever, but his 5 factory or 6 factory quickly fell apart to KwarK's kind of fast arbiter play. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time around. What do you think about this matchup, Sari?
DarK looked a lot stronger than UltrA did in game 1, but history would tell me that UltrA would be a slight favorite. The map, though, is not good for Terran versus Protoss. A lot of factors, basically. Main is huge, drops, recalls, whatever. You're below a ramp in your main. The third is a minute only. It's kind of hard to take a fourth, and I mean, Protoss can abuse all these factors. Yeah. I mean, Aztec does not seem to be a very friendly map towards Terran, so I think UltrA is gonna have his work cut out for him game 1. But of course, this is best of 3, and there are 6 other maps in the map pool. So even if game does not go in UltrA's favor, he will have a chance to come back. DarK, though, again, as in game 1, is gonna have a slight map advantage. So we'll have to see if he can actually translate that into a win this time around. I feel like versus cRoSs, he actually got into a nice position, but just couldn't finish it off. Like you said, Aztec, there's a reverse ramp, so there's a lot that Protoss can do to kind of abuse Terran. But I must say that, you know, if you compare Aztec to a map like Ascension, which is the other 3-player map in the map pool, the rush distances are actually huge on Aztec. Like they're really big. Yeah, and it's actually pretty hard to do any kind of early game stuff as because you have to go up this really small ramp that leads into their natural. So it becomes a little bit awkward. And well, look, I'm looking at the BSL. I forgot UltrA actually did make it into the round of 8 last season, and he lost to Ziki. So you can see he has been.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He's been improving in his BSL, and DarK, of course, made it in BSL 6 ages ago, and he's improved a lot since then.
Yeah, I forgot. That's exactly what we were talking about last season with respect to UltrA. We were kind of waiting for him to make a big splash, because I remember he was in this group with, I don't remember who, but Kenzie was in there and some other players. But I remember watching him play, and he had such phenomenal TVZ. And I felt like, you know, from playing UltrA at that time, you know, BSL 12 on ladder, I thought he had leveled up a bit relative to his competition, and he had made it through to the round of 8. So that was definitely a good season for him. We'll have to see if he can continue that streak. DarK, like we've been mentioning, has been on the up and up recently as well, though. So I think this is actually a really good matchup for both these players. It's like they can both have an opportunity to prove themselves and test themselves as well. So Aztec, again, is going to be map number 1 for this game, and we'll just get right into it.
All right, in the bottom left spawn, we have the blue Protoss DarK.
And in the 12 o'clock, the red Terran UltrA.
DarK, not to be confused with other South American players, Darking and Gosu DarK and the other DarK.
They also all play Protoss, right?
Yeah.
Dude, DarK is... if you're a Protoss player from South America, you have to have DarK in your name. I guess Tech is like the only exception. Who else is a really good Protoss player in South America?
I mean, they have Walpool, they have Tech, they have
D and Max,
La
I guess.
Abuela,
La
D and
Abuela,
Max.
yeah. When's La Abuela gonna make it into BSL, man? That's what I'm waiting for. Well, reverse ramp here is always hard to deal with as Terran, and because it's a 3-player map, I feel like Protosses can go for stuff like Pylon Scout or an early Scout and kind of hedge their bets, because half the time you'll get in the Terran's main, and then you can get a gas steal off on top of a low ground main. It can be super oppressive, but DarK not really going for a center gate, so not looking to pressure too much. But the other kind of, what used to be popular on these types of maps was 10-15. Well, actually 10-15 came to prominence on Medusa, if you remember, right?
Yeah.
And that was like a flat map, and that's difficult to deal with. But now imagine your ramp is like reverse ramp. That's even harder to deal with as Terran. So I do wonder if DarK wants to go for something like a 2-gate opener here, or if he's just going to play standard.
He's not playing standard. He's going Zealot first, delayed his gas, and this could be Zealot Core Zealot, or maybe even Zealot Core. But he's going to be aggressive in the early game. And this, well, a long time ago, the common opener on this map as Terran was actually Rax Expand, because you just want to get a bunker on the high ground. This was before Terrans just started bunker expanding with factories anyway.
Yeah.
And Ultra was going for that, or is going for that. You can see he has 100 gas, pulls off gas, and this is going to be Zealot Core Zealot from DarK. He's going to want to get some damage done with the first Zealot. And Ultra has a nice sim city here with the barracks and the command center. And the factory is on the way.
Again, like, the rush distances on this map is huge, because like your unit has to walk from the main all around. Like, this is really long. The Zealot isn't there yet, and I think Terran already has 2 Marines with a 3rd Marine on the way. Generally, you want the Zealot to get... There's already 3 Marines, and the 4th Marine is on the way. So actually, the Zealot should not do any damage. You just have to split your Marines and remain calm. So this is what I'm talking about, man. Like, the actual rush distance on this map is enormous. Much longer than maps like Sylphid or Ascension or other 3-player maps. So even though Terran has to deal with this reverse ramp, Terran also has more time than on most maps to prepare for aggression.
Okay, so a couple things. One, DarK actually went rangeless or range after Nexus, and Nexus even after Goon, so really delayed Goon. And on a normal map, I would say this is suicide. You're just gonna die to an FD because you're not gonna have anything when Terran has 1 tank and all these Marines. But on this map, I think he just has enough time to get a Dragoon on the ramp. But this is a lot of Marines, and the Zealot is actually gonna die here. Ultra did make a Vulture right away instead of going for add-on. I think he wanted to secure his high ground right away. But had he gone for a push, okay, looks like he's gonna go for it anyway. These Dragoons won't have range for a very long time. So this is actually pretty scary.
Wait, this is actually a real... I'm not gonna lie, I've never seen anything like this, but this is really good. You don't actually need tanks to deal with Dragoons if they don't have range, because Dragoons without range basically have the same range as a Marine.
Yeah, and they actually get outranged by Vultures, so...
Yeah.
And Ultra's expanding behind this. I really like this opener from Ultra.
Yeah, I think Protoss is dead. I think this Nexus is gonna die. This was a perfect build from Ultra. Looks like DarK is gonna try and pull the probes. If he gets on top of the Marines, but there's no other mineral patches for him to pull through. Looks like the Marines for now are getting pushed back. Goons are still quite tanky, but that is 2 Vultures, 3 Vultures now. All these probes are gonna die, and, well, actually 2 Vultures go down before the probes are actually doing so much damage, and the Nexus gets up. I mean, if, well, you know, as the dust clears, actually, Protoss loses all of his probes, and yeah.
So I was like, okay, Terran's gonna win this easily, and then all of a sudden the probes start killing everything, but then the probes die anyway.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now it's like he does have the Nexus. Fortunately for him, no bunker was established, but Ultra wasn't all in. Like, he expanded behind us. He's perfectly fine here.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, but I am definitely impressed by Ultra's build order, because I think this was that's probably the best response you could have against this build. I don't know if he's seen that. That's something I might steal, actually. Dude, that was impressive. He just completely punished that Nexus, and really the rangeless Nexus, as we can call it, I guess, has been quite popular. I mean, in general, Protosses tend to favor Zealot expand and not as fast of a Dragoon. But I think, and against that, this push probably is also as good. But that was immaculate from Ultra. Completely punished that opening, and now he's like in a commanding lead. He has 10 workers on DarK. I mean, when Terran is ahead in economy or in tempo in this matchup this early into the game, it's so hard for Protoss.
Yeah, and just very like he did that on the fly. He saw the build and he's like, okay, I'm not going to make an add-on and we're going to push with all these Marines. On top of the no range, we also got to remember that DarK opened up Zealot first, and that actually delayed everything a little bit further. So even though this is a really long rush distance, Ultra factored that in and he was able to get a ton of damage done. And this from DarK is actually something if you're behind, you gotta go Reavers. Like, you need something to get damage done, and Reaver Scarabs are extremely volatile. They can flip a game just with one good Scarab. And Ultra's actually pretty well prepared, though.
I do like how DarK is going straight speed. One thing about Ultra is, generally you don't want to make this many tanks. The maximum amount of tanks you want to make in TVP is like 3, like in this early game. And then you want to make Goliaths or Vultures to like accelerate your build. But I've seen Ultra consistently go for this 4 tank, even a 5th tank, and it really slows him down. And this situation, I don't think he has an eBay. I don't think he's pre-building turrets. So the fact that he's skipping, like, okay, he has 1 turret, but that's not enough. The fact that he's skipping the Goliaths, well, he saw the shuttle with that scan, actually, so he might be prepared. I mean, DarK has to pull something out of the hat, though, because look at the worker deficit. It's just still climbing for Ultra.
Yeah, and like you said, Ultra really just makes non-stop tanks, and he really needed that second factory to be a little bit faster. He's gonna get 1 turret denied. He should have dropped a Zealot to target that SCVs. Looks like he's gonna get out, and he does have speed, but this is a very low shuttle already.
No, that's it. I mean, that shuttle just got way too low there. Ate too many turret shots. Definitely should have unloaded the Zealots to maybe kill the turrets, but now, essentially the shuttle plus speed hasn't done anything. You really want to have Terran at least pull his SCVs and interrupt mining for a while. But when it does this little damage, you're even further behind. We'll have to see. Maybe this drop here is outside of
we can't drop. Okay. Well, nice reaction here from Ultra. Looks like no SCVs actually get taken down. Zealot dies. Good attempt there by DarK, but just wasn't able to drop it quickly enough. And yeah, the shuttle plus speed plus the Reaver plus all the Scarabs, that's almost 2 Nexuses worth of minerals. And what has he actually done? He killed 1 SCV and he forced a pull.
Yeah, well, and now he's going into Citadel, so it looks like he's going into Arbiters, or maybe he's just trying to go for a 2-base bust. But in this type of situation, if you're Terran, 5-facting is like probably the best thing you can do, because it catches absolutely everything. If Protoss is trying to go for carriers, Protoss trying to go for like some crazy, I don't know, like triple or double expand or something, it just puts on so much pressure, especially when you have like an economic advantage. And another thing you can do as well is you can just make Goliaths instead of Vultures, and they're just so supply efficient, and they really kind of pressure, like they compound your economic lead and completely dismantle shuttles. That it's going to be so hard for Protoss to deal with this. Now, that being said, I will say that Aztec is a harder map to do timings on, right? Like, it's kind of doesn't have that architecture where you can just straight push someone's natural and end the game. You're gonna have to go all the way around. So it's not like the 5-fact can just straight up waltz across the map and kill the natural, but it's gonna be really hard for DarK to deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, the Reaver's still alive. If you had a second Reaver, you can slow this push down a little bit. You just camp in front and have an observer spot, but no second Reaver. He did make a second shuttle, so he's gonna rely on Zealots getting on top of the tanks. But like you said, Ultra has a large economic advantage. He's also gonna have a small army advantage. And I'm a little bit curious about what you said about tank Goliath. Like if you just make Goliaths instead of vultures. And I did actually see this once. And I'm like, okay, he doesn't have vultures. What is he doing? But you gotta remember, they cost the same supply, and Goliaths had 125 HP. So they're actually super tanky compared to the vultures.
Yeah, it's something I've seen. I actually saw Scan do this, and I think I've heard him talk about it at some point. But Scan did against DeWalt in a game where he was behind, and he kind of just wanted to all in with like a 2-base play. And instead of building vultures, he just made Goliaths, and it made a lot of sense. They're just better units, especially at this stage in the game, and especially when you have like an economic advantage and you're dealing with stuff like Reavers and shuttles to delay your push. Well, when you have 8 Goliaths, they just walk up and insta snipe the shuttle, and there's not much counterplay to it, especially with range. So, but you know, to be honest, it doesn't matter what Ultra builds. Vultures, Goliaths, he's just gonna have such an overwhelming supply advantage. Though I will say, when you have only 2 Goliaths, okay, he's making a couple more Goliaths. He definitely needs some Goliaths. You know, you don't have to replace all your vultures with Goliaths, but against shuttles, you need that anti-air. But this is such a huge advantage, man.
Yeah, this is a big investment into these shuttles and all these zealots. And okay, if you can catch the vultures out of position and drop on the tanks, you can actually trade very efficiently. But Ultra can win this fight if he just has everything together, even without siege.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, actually siege would be worse for Ultra, because then the tanks can almost splash each other. But this is nice too, just sieging a couple of tanks, as long as he's targeting down the goons with those siege tanks. Really nicely played there from Ultra. And yeah, I mean, DarK, again, he was in such a terrible position from the early game, like really far behind after that initial Vulture Marine push, and it's starting to show now. But that being said, Sari, I mean, again, this map is tricky to push on. It's not like a Fighting Spirit where you like just walk outside your natural, you're in the middle of the map, and then you can attack your opponent's natural. You kind of have to go all the way around ramps and stuff like that. So maybe DarK can get a good engagement. The supplies are closer than they look, because DarK actually has a 20 supply deficit in workers, so his army supply is pretty even, and he still has Reavers to work with. There's still a world in which maybe Terran botches his attack. One shuttle does go down. I wonder if there was anything in that shuttle. The Reaver's still alive, but yeah, as this game prolongs, Ultra's 20 worker count is gonna start snowballing.
Yeah, and I mean, if DarK was really on top of his game, he could have unloaded the shuttle and gotten scatters off on Vulture Goliath. And like, if you've never seen what Clump Vultures look like against Scarabs, it's actually pretty painful. Like, the supply just melts.
Yeah, it looks like a nuke goes off on the screen, but Zealots are on top of the tanks. Actually, this is good fight for Protoss for a second, but now looks like all the Zealots died and the Goons follow suit, and looking pretty bad for DarK.
Yeah, the Reaver doesn't go down. DarK, to defend the timing, he actually went for Mass Gate before his third, and it helped him not die right away. Like, he was able to keep Ultra at bay, but keeping Ultra at bay is not a big deal. You really just wanted to go for the kill there. Ultra just had this superior economic advantage. He's pushing, and I mean, it's a control group of Protoss units against all of this Terran.
And just to reiterate what you're saying, like, you know, Protoss had to get those gates up before the third Nexus, which is another nice thing about just going for a timing attack, or like basically like delaying your upgrades or delaying your third base as Terran in these types of situations where you have an advantage. You force the Protoss to slow down their economy anyway, but you're ahead economically. So Terran can also just take a third base kind of in sync with Protoss and still be ahead. So it really is such an easy way to play TVP off an early game advantage. So I don't know if this was premeditated or what by Ultra, but compared to his first game against KwarK, he's playing so much better here against DarK. I really liked his play. His opening was really good. His mid game now is like, his follow-up is really good, and it looks like he double expanded, right? Like, he's just playing phenomenally well, and DarK is up against the wall.
Yeah, he's actually regrouping with some units before going in again, and now look at this Terran army. What can DarK actually do? He doesn't have any splash. The Reaver's dead, no storm, no tech, no upgrades, and he's just gonna get pushed back. He did take his third finally, but Ultra's now on 4 bases, and I think this is gonna be the last attempt here. He's gonna try to bust through.
Yeah, and here comes Dark trying to dismantle this push. Nice early game, or like early fight engagement, but now the Zealots do get cleaned up, and with Goons on the high ground though, can get some work done, but it's just so many tanks. Finally, that volley just completely evaporating the Dragoons. GG is called, and Ultra takes game 1.
All right, that was pretty clean from the opener for Ultra. Looked like a completely different player. Maybe it was tournament nerves against KwarK, but a lot better.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, that first game, man. It's always it's hard for some players. I feel like I know it is for me, but Ultra, I think, definitely showed really good skill this game. I think this is, you know, honestly, like for a while, like. I thought Ultra, because I was playing Ultra and Dandy. I don't play Terror that much on ladder, but for a while, Ultra definitely had way better TVT in my experience than Dandy. So like, I felt like he really has, like, when he plays well, he actually plays really well. And I think this game he played, like, at all stages in the game, he played really well. Like, there's really nothing wrong with how he played that game, and just everything was on. Just spot on. Dark is gonna have his work cut out for him, and again, Aztec was a good map for Protoss. I don't know what he's gonna be looking at now. Yeah, like, what do you think? I mean, have you seen any games on Wavelet and Vertebrae?
Yeah, Wavelet, not a particularly good.
Okay, I'll actually say Wavelet is pretty bad for Terran, because the space in between your Nat and your third, you can't build anything.
That's true. I think Vertebrae is just too crazy of a map. Not sure what kind of practice Dark has had in it. Arcberry Ridge is actually okay for PvT. Maybe slightly better than okay. It's actually pretty good if you're going to be aggressive. If you're going to play defensively, it's not that great of a map. And I think Dark should be on the aggressive, should be the aggressor in this matchup. And I mean, what else is Ascension? I think it's just a solid map all around. So maybe that.
Yeah. I think Dark, though, you know, generally when you think about the Dark Protoss players, like Gosu Dark, you're thinking, wow, the aggression. But I think Dark actually isn't that aggressive. I think he tends to want to play macro games. You saw it this game. He had, like, his opener was very economically focused. He didn't try to go for an early scout, didn't try to go for an early... I mean, he did open with the Zealot into, you know, the early Zealot, though, these days is quite common. But I don't think he wants to play too aggro, and it looks like Wavelet is going to be the map.
Yep, and looks like we're ready to jump into game 2. All right, so in the bottom right spawn, we have our yellow Protoss DarK.
In the bottom left, it is the red Terran UltrA. Well,
so I know what DarK was thinking last game. He was like, okay, I'm going to go Zealot and see if I can get anything done. He saw the wall, didn't commit to more Zealots, and was like, I have all these floating minerals, so let me just go take a Nexus. Rust distances are large. I have this ramp. And then all of a sudden, he gets caught off guard by this 2 Vulture 6 Marine timing, and he's like, oh crap, I have nothing.
Yeah. So you think it wasn't premeditated?
No, I think he improvised once he saw Ultra was pretty well prepared to deal with the Zealots.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. Generally, though, with the Zealot opening, I feel like generally when you go, like, with the Zealot opening, you want to get your Nexus before your core, right? And then you want to get core. So it is weird that you would go Zealot core Nexus instead of just Zealot Nexus core, you know?
Yeah. Also, losing that Zealot for nothing was actually pretty important. Like, even if you have one Zealot, one Dragoon, as long as they're on top of that ramp, it's actually pretty difficult for Terran to move up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think that's the one drawback of, like, this modern PvT style. The early Zealots are actually huge. Like, and if you lose them for nothing, you actually you are really far behind as Protoss. So definitely not the most ideal opening last game for Dark. This time around, though, looks like Dark will not get a first scout. he'll probably get to scout his opponent last. And on this map, it looks like to me, isn't vertical like closer than horizontal?
I think it's about the same on this map.
Okay.
And if we saw from Ultra's first game, he actually went scouting at both adjacent spawns, but he's not going to see anything important. Just standard core from DarK, and Ultra going for some kind of factory play. Will it be 2-fact?
Well, he is still mining gas. Oh, well, he doesn't have his factory quite yet. Usually the factory goes down around now. Optimization for Ultra, not quite there, because you know, generally the factory you want to start at like 35, and he started at like 43. So sometimes that can be the map having poor mining. So I hope that's not the case.
No,
but
he just made the Marine SCV same time, didn't cancel, so he had enough gas, but he was 50 minerals behind.
Yeah, well, a bit late, and you know that can impact. You know, that can be a serious impact early game in certain situations. Like, you really want to rely on that vulture timing to defend kind of like Zealot Dragoon attacks at your natural. We'll have to see though. It looks like Ultra is going for a very standard opening. DarK does finally get his Zealot here in front of Ultra's base. We'll have to see how he plays this out. I do like that DarK is just being passive with the Zealot. No way he can get any damage done against 3 Marines and the wall in there. Actually playing very standard, getting the Dragoon range, so does not want to have a repeat of last game. Instead, DarK probably thinking to himself, well, I just want to get into the mid game. I want to play my game. And it's going to be good against what Ultra's doing, actually, because Ultra looks like he's trying to go for kind of the same build he did last game.
Ultra, okay, so a couple things. One, this opener that DarK did, that's why he scouted so fast, because he wanted to get the Zealot right away to the Terran base. But the real timing with the Zealot opener, when it's just one, it's the Zealot Goon timing. If you get the Zealot and the Goon straight to Terran's base, and Terran makes add-on, they're not going to have anything to deal with your Zealot Dragoon. Even if it's 4 Marines is not enough. And unfortunately really late, for DarK, okay, so yeah, the bunker's really late. The Vulture didn't kill.
He needs to kill the SCV.
Looks like he's targeting the Marines. He's gonna get the Vulture, which is actually a nice pickup, but Ultra is safe and secure now behind this bunker. And I mean, that was a little bit nerve-wracking, because if you kill the SCV, the tank is still a little bit away. And
Ultra's lucky, man. The game could have ended right there. The bunker was definitely late. I totally agree with you, Sari. That's the timing. 1 Zealot, 1 Goon, which DarK kind of missed, and he waited for the second Goon. But with the second Goon and no bunker, the game should be over there. Unfortunately, didn't quite target the right units, and Ultra will get the bunker finished. So, you know, Terran will hold on, and obviously, like, going this Zealot double Goon opening. Oh my God, he actually gets a Goon, but that definitely delays Protoss's Nexus. So overall, I would say Terran is ahead in this early game.
Yeah, and Ultra never got a scout in, so that's why we see this eBay. And it is just normal robo play. It could still be Reaver, we don't know. He did repair his tank, so it's that under no threat of getting sniped, and he's being super aggressive. Like, there could be a third Goon out there. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, just pulling back now. I think Ultra has a nice or a slight economic lead here, just because Protoss did go Zealot Goon.
Yeah.
And he's gonna make turrets just in case, because he doesn't actually know if DarK expanded or not.
Yeah.
Oh, he's diving. He's diving. Okay. No.
That was scary. Yeah, he does know though that DarK went for Dragoon range, so that's a huge piece of information, which is why he delayed his turret until now. And now getting a second turret, so really being safe against some kind of DT all in. I can respect that. Hopefully he gets an armory going right about now is usually what you would want to do. This turret is early, though it does cover the 1 base robotics timing, I suppose. And like you mentioned, Sari doesn't really know what Protoss is up to. Though I will say, building turrets this early, he's actually delaying his build significantly. You don't want to make 4 turrets this early. I don't think he actually has an armory, so...
Yeah, still just on 1 factory, and again, only tanks, so he's really delaying everything. No armory. And DarK actually went super safe. He went 3 gate observer instead of just 2 gate, and once he gets to this base and he sees all his turrets, he's gonna be smacking himself and asking why he didn't just make a third here. He's gonna lose his first observer, which is actually pretty painful. Like this, now you have no information.
Well, not only do you
Protoss.
not have any information, but Terran has free information. Now, Terran knows he went Observer. So, you know, shuttle speed is not going to be anytime soon. Some kind of shuttle attack is going to come later, and he already has that covered. So, I think that combined with the fact that, as you mentioned, DarK played overly defensively, generally, you don't need 3 gates off this opener. You really only need 2. Especially if you have good control and if you don't cut corners. But at the same time, you know, I mean, Ultra just now starting his first armory. That's really, really late for upgrades.
Yeah, we see DarK taking that third and Ultra scouting because he still doesn't know. He also has really delayed scans. And I mean, this is there. It's gonna lead into a normal game, I think. Ultra's on. I mean, he still might go for a timing here, but he has no information. This is making it weird. And he did actually move his tanks even further back. So I think Ultra's was expecting some kind of a bust based on the Dragoon count he saw. But that's just because there's 3 gateways, not 2.
Yeah, DarK is playing pretty risky here. He's actually just assuming there's no drops, and if there were drops, the game would be over. Parking your goons outside of Terran's natural is never ideal with imperfect information, especially with this turret ring. I mean, you have no idea what Terran's doing, but luckily for DarK, Ultra's just playing really, really safe, and this is actually going to prevent Vultures from going out onto the map and harassing Protoss, so definitely nice for Protoss in general. Again, man, Ultra tends to make so many tanks in the early game. It really stifles his build, in my opinion, but it does give him enough power to kind of just push out and take a position here. But again, this is the problem with this map. It's just all of this terrain here is unbuildable, so you can't leapfrog turrets. So it actually makes the position really, really sketch for Terran to hold.
Yeah, and DarK is actually not going into later tech. It's just going to mass gateway here. And if Ultra were to try to take a third here, it could actually be pretty scary. He needs to utilize his scans to see what's going on here. But right now, this isn't enough. It's only Dragoons and 1 shuttle, and we have enough Goliaths here. So DarK actually shouldn't commit. It's got to be careful. There's a lot of turrets and a lot of anti-air here. The shuttle won't get on top of the tanks.
This could work if he goes now. Yeah, if he unloads the shuttle right now, those initial tanks do get a volley off on the Dragoons though, but with the Zealots in front, you really need to have Vultures to cover this, to be honest with you. So even if Protoss doesn't actually kill Terran outright, he will get a really good trade. That was really good. He killed like half the tanks there.
Yeah,
but
and
is it enough?
I think it was a fine trade here. He's still 7 gateways, and he will be able to remake his Dragoons. He lost a lot of Dragoons there, which is not what you want to do. And good for him that he actually walled off his third, because even a 2 Vulture counterattack could have been devastating. And looks like Ultra is gonna go for timing with +1 behind this. So I think DarK is fine, but he doesn't actually have any more tech, and actually that's a lot of factories.
Yeah, that's so many factories. Ultra looks like he's not interested in getting a third base. Will play that timing attack style once again, as he did against KwarK, which can be risky. I mean, it's not a consistent style, right? Like, especially when you go for no starport, you don't really set yourself up for any late game whatsoever. So it's all about whether or not your timing works and whether or not Protoss can defend against it. DarK is playing in the dark, pardon the pun, but
he never got in. So he knows it's some kind of 2-base play, but he doesn't know if it's going to be 2-base to 1 or what. And Ultra has been doing a good job with these Vultures, just laying mines, being annoying. Even if a couple detonate, it's going to make DarK's Dragoon count lower, and you can see he's having a difficult time dealing with all these this Vulture movement.
Yeah, he is. That's one thing about his play. that seems a bit suspect here is not really covering the right angles with the Dragoons. That being said, it is a nice pylon wall here. Will the Vultures get in? Oh my god, they actually do get in, so all these probes are gonna die. That is a lot of Ultras to lose, but because Ultra is on, what is it, like 7 or 8 factories, he doesn't really care about making the supply trade for Protoss' economy, and that keeps Protoss down to 2 bases functionally. So that was a huge moment for Terran. Now the 2 base has more breathing room. It has more ability to transition into late game because Protoss has had their infrastructure delayed. And this is looking really hard for DarK now because momentarily Ultra is going to be pushing out with a bunch of units, +1, actually 1-1 probably, and 8 factories behind it. And DarK has fewer probes than the Terran has SCVs, which is never what you want to see at this stage in the game.
Yeah, and they lose like 15 vultures with both harassment attempts, but with 8 factories, 7 factories, you can just remake that in 2 rounds. Yeah. And I mean, Ultra, I think he missed an opportunity here. I think when all those goons were committed to the 3rd base, that was goal time.
Yeah.
If he had just gone there, it would have taken DarK a really long time to get out from his 3rd. And even though he's not doing that, he's still fine. Like economically, he's perfectly fine. DarK also doesn't have superior tech. It's not like Ultra's on a timer here to go. There's no arbiters incoming. So Ultra has all this information and he's just harassing and expanding slowly. He's gonna get his 3rd set up and he's gonna go from there. And I mean, DarK's kind of in a bind here.
Yeah, this command center is a bit suspect here from Ultra, mostly because, you know, you really want to have upgrades as Terran if you want to play a longer game. But you can respect the fact that this is a tournament setting and Ultra doesn't want to get too risky with being all in on 2 base. But then again, I mean, that's what his build is designed to do at this point. That being said, though, he did do so much damage that I think it doesn't really matter what Terran does at this point. He's in a commanding lead. Protoss is going to struggle to get a 4th and 5th base up while teching up to Arbiters. Although DarK does have a lot of gas, so hopefully he sets aside a couple of minerals to actually get a Stargate, or at least get a Templar Archives. Yeah, there we go, finally getting into Arbiters, but they're not going to be out in time. I mean, there's certainly not going to be any stasis out in time for the impending push here from Terran. But it is hard to push on this map, I feel like, as Terran, because you don't really have that wide open space. I mean, the map looks wide open, but at least pushing horizontally, you have to funnel all your units through these ramps, right? Which isn't going to be helpful for Terran at all.
Yeah, and while Ultra doesn't have really strong upgrades, DarK just has no splash. If he had Storm here, this would look a lot differently. Like he could storm the incoming army that's trying to go up these ramps and be very cost efficient. But with just pure gateway units, even if you have shuttles, you're going to have a tough time trading efficiently. He is maxed, but remember, this is 7 gateway against 7 factories. So he has to not only trade, he has to win these fights, which is really hard for Protoss to do.
Yeah, I do like how Ultra is trying to set up on the widest ramp on this map in the middle here instead of going up that smaller ramp. I think that smaller ramp, I mean, DarK was positioned perfectly to intercept the Terran army, but now Ultra has more space to move around with. This is a really tense moment in the game because whoever wins this fight is going to win the game undoubtedly. I think generally Protoss is going to have a decent trade, but I think Terran might have enough supply to be able to push through after the first fight unless DarK takes a really, really good fight. And again, you can see this is what's hard about this map for Terran, especially horizontally, is you just have to fight uphill when you're pushing. So understandably, Ultra is taking his time trying to find the optimal...
Okay, it's go time. Unsiege tanks. DarK is moving forward. The shuttle is a little bit far back, but he's getting on top of these back tanks with some zealots.
God.
Ultra is on the low ground here. That's a really nice drop off of zealots. The Dragoons are still mostly alive. DP's added as well into the mix. And looks like DarK is going to clean this up. Huge
God.
Concave as well.
That was a huge fight for DarK. Dude, he did that without Storm, without Arbiters. Like, it's just so hard for Terran to fight uphill here. Literally Gateway Man just crashed into that, and you know, to be honest, one way of counteracting like bad terrain for Terran is upgrades, right? Because if his units were 3-2, which they could be at 17 minutes, you kind of don't care about what, like, you overwhelm Protoss with just how strong your army is. But at 1-1, plus the kind of reduced damage from the high ground, that really, really helped Protoss to win that game, or win that fight rather. But the problem is DarK never got a fourth base.
Yeah, so despite that looking amazing,
Yeah.
he's still in trouble because Ultra does have a third base. He still has a lot of production. He's working on 2-2, which is almost done. And I mean, he did overextend it. Like, he won the big fight convincingly, but then the reinforcements from Ultra killed almost all the Dragoons. And now we're looking at a scenario where there's like no Dragoons left, tons of Ultras still alive, and DarK, no fourth base. He is getting tech, but again, Arbiters are really slow. They're going to be out, but they're not going to have energy. And this is going to be a huge minefield between him and his third base now.
Yeah,
It looks
DarK
like
never got his base up, man. And his tech is so late. If DarK had like 4 bases, at least, at the very least, he should have had a fourth base by now. But he could have had 5 bases, possibly. Then he'd be in a good spot. But with only 2 base mining, and now this base at the 3 o'clock here is wide open. So the probes are going to go down. DarK is going to be mining off of just his natural. This is looking really bad for Protoss.
looks like he's gonna kill the tanks, but the minerals, the probes at this mineral line, both arbiters actually go down to the Goliaths.
Yeah.
And Ultra has done it.
Well, yeah, Ultra is going to clean up here. DarK, unfortunately, is going to go out. His run in the BSL comes to an end here against Ultra, though, I mean, he will still fight it out valiantly. Get a counterattack here at bottom left.
Yeah,
But
now the mech is 2-2, so...
yeah, with 2-2 mech, with an overwhelming supply advantage for Ultra, it's going to be easy pickings. And looks like Ultra is going to face KwarK in the final match here today. GG comes out from DarK. And yeah, of course, remember, guys, these games are generally hosted on top versus bottom, and on replays it can be really weird where the text doesn't show, but I'm telling you, most of these guys are GGing. So if you think you're like, oh, no GG, no GG, that's probably not what happened. But yeah, DarK loses. Ultra gets past him, and we're gonna have a rematch from the first game.
Yep, DarK, unfortunately not able to take any games off Ultra, but he did look really strong in game 1, and he had moments where he played well, but just he played a better player. And Ultra versus KwarK, and this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, but before we get into that, we'll go take a quick break here, guys, so we'll be back. Don't you go anywhere. And we're back with the final game for today. It is going to be UltrA versus KwarK in that rematch from the second game we had today, actually. KwarK looked really convincing, actually, against UltrA. And, you know, if you're UltrA in this situation, I mean, you're probably feeling confident because you just smacked the Protoss. But the first game, like, that's the kind of game that can really put you on tilt, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, he was also probably nervous, so
Yeah.
Ultra's got to be feeling a little bit better. He's got the nerves out. He's got to focus, and I mean, it's gonna be tough because KwarK still is gonna mix things up. And I gotta mention, I think KwarK is actually tilted, not from his game versus UltrA, but I actually think he's tilted from how he lost versus cRoSs.
Yeah.
Because sure, losing to cRoSs is expected. And if KwarK plays a game and he plays his game, he's like, okay, I lost to a better player. But the way he lost, not seeing 6 lings, like that kind of instant GG, you only see that when you're tilted. So
yeah.
I think we're going to head into a very good match here. And I don't know who's actually favored.
Yeah.
Could go either way.
We'll have to see if KwarK actually has something in store for UltrA. Of course, game one we saw, or the first game these guys played earlier, we saw KwarK with the fast Corsair mix-up. And generally, you know, that can definitely tilt a Terran player, right? Like, it's not like it's a big deal because the Corsair is cheap and, you know, whatever. But when you've just never seen anything like that, and it's like the first game you have in a tournament, it's hard to kind of keep your composure. But I think UltrA, after that first game, is probably going to be feeling a bit more comfortable playing against KwarK. But knowing KwarK, I mean, he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, especially against Terran, I feel like. So with the first map of being Aztec again, you know, we were talking about how this is definitely a decent Protoss map. I'm curious to see what KwarK thinks is the best approach here.
Yeah, and we still haven't seen his 12 Nexus, so
yeah,
I think if we see Heartbreak Ridge, we're gonna see that 12 Nexus.
Well, we'll have to see if we do get the Heartbreak Ridge. I do wonder if KwarK is actually gonna pick that map if he does end up losing, but you know, we have to play this first game before anything else. So UltrA, of course. Well, actually, game is ready. So let's just get into it.
All right, in the left side spawn on Aztec, we have our blue Terran UltrA.
And in the bottom right, it is KwarK in that red Protoss.
And the map Aztec, we did see it earlier, and UltrA pulled out a really nice build.
Yeah.
But this is also a good map for 12 Nexus from KwarK, especially the way he does it.
Yeah.
So we could probably see that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually pulled out his double gate 12 Nexus. Especially because then he's just going to transpose into that 10-15 situation where you're pressuring a low ground main.
Yeah. And UltrA, I mean, we did see it go for racks against, or gas against DarK, and probably going to see that again.
Yeah, well,
one thing we haven't seen from UltrA is any kind of drop play. Like, he just goes for timings.
Yeah.
And so far that's worked really well. But I think against a player like KwarK, he is somewhat vulnerable to drop play. And we have Gateway. So no 12 Nexus from KwarK.
Yeah, no 12 Nexus. No, it's really surprising because this is the type of map that you really want to put pressure onto the Terran. So playing this more passive opening, I think is a bit counterintuitive, but we'll see what KwarK has in store. Now, KwarK last season, you know, he made it to the round of 16, where he bombed out in legendary fashion. Of course, if you missed that, you should go check it out. He actually had a really interesting build orders. And one of the games, it was actually kind of genius almost, but he kind of like misplaced the building. I think it was on that Demonio Azul like map. in any way. Kind of similar to how he lost to cRoSs last game, where something just didn't go right and he left. So, you know, we'll have to see if it seems to me like KwarK has sometimes mental issues, right? Like in terms of keeping his emotions in check and not tilting too hard. This is going to be a 13 or a 16. Oh, so this is what's been really trending these days. I don't know if you've heard about this Tossbot guy.
No,
Sorry,
not familiar.
He's this Korean streamer, like whatever. He streams on Twitch, but he came up with this optimization of like the gate Nexus build, and it's something like you get everything on 16, like 16 Nexus, 16 gas, 16 core, 16 pylon, and it was so good. And this guy's like an A rank Protoss, right, or maybe low S, but it was so good that Mini actually used it in ASL. So this is a very strong build here KwarK is using. It's very on meta, and we'll have to see how Ultra deals with this. The first Zealot gets inside of the base, does kill one Marine.
Okay, so I think Ultra's already in big trouble. One,
oh my god,
he lost the first Marine right away, and the second thing is he got his 2 facts scouted. Like, I don't know if he actually did see the second factory, but he saw 3 on gas for a very long time.
Yeah, so, he might have seen. Well, he definitely saw the 3 on gas, but was he paying attention? Because that's like a minor detail, and sometimes you just he might assume that, oh well, Ultra's just choking. He like, you know, he just forgot to pull them off gas or something. So it's ambiguous, but I wonder if Ultra knows that KwarK hasn't seen the second fact, because Ultra just kind of built it in front of the Zealot.
KwarK does not know that this is 2 fact because there's no goon range.
Yeah, he went robotics before range.
Oh man. And it's going to be the 3 tank version, and against goonless or rangeless goons, it's going to be pretty hard for KwarK to hold on. How does he do it? He does manage to block, or he's going to try to block this SCV, which is actually pretty important. I mean, one of the reasons why 2 fact is pretty bad is because Protoss can do anything non-standard, and all of a sudden Terran is like boned. But he does manage, at least there's a Nexus. And is this actually not going to be 3 tank? Looks like it's not. It's going to be 1 tank with Marines and then Vulture reinforcements. He's going to go for faster timing, and he's going to hit before goons have range.
Yeah. I do wonder if he actually saw this. But you know what's interesting about 2 fact is on most maps, Protoss can kind of just abandon their natural and play it out. It's almost kind of like when Terran pulls the SCVs to clear a 12 Nexus. But because this is reverse ramp, Protoss really can't afford to lose their natural. So this is do or die for KwarK here. He has to defend the high ground. Looks like, yeah, it doesn't matter that he doesn't have Dragoon range. He does have 2 gate pumping goons and a couple of Zealots here. And with just 1 tank, I feel like maybe this was a misstep from Ultra, because he's not going to have the most DPS onto these Dragoons. He's going to be relying heavily on mines connecting.
Yeah, the 3 tank variant is a lot stronger for that reason, because you can really go out and engage. But KwarK is just hold positioning here. The mines are detonating. Looks like 2 Dragoons are very damaged. 1 goes down, and all of a sudden this is looking scary for KwarK. Ultra does need a couple more mines. The Observer is out, but again, it's not that much. Looks like the probes are coming in to help.
The probes are getting pulled, but the goons all melt, and the tank is still alive. And now with 2 factory Vulture rallying across the map, I think this is all but done for Protoss. I mean, KwarK's going to lose his Nexus here. He's going to lose a bunch of probes, and now he's going to be relegated to his low ground main. I don't think there's any coming back from this. Maybe if he queues a shuttle right away and goes straight into Reaver, he has a chance, but he still has to deal with the 2-fact Vulture. Behind this, though, Ultra is not expanding quite yet. So that is a silver lining for Protoss, but KwarK's losing all of his probes, and I mean he's getting into dangerously low probe count. I mean, even if he stabilizes from here, Terran has an unbelievably huge economic advantage.
Yeah, and tank on the high ground as well. And this all comes down to KwarK going Robo before range. Like, those Dragoons still didn't have range. Normally you say 3 Dragoons and 2 Zealots would be able to clean up that army pretty easily, but without range, and the fact that he actually held them on hold position, they didn't even shoot, and 6 mines were laid, And with that, I mean, Ultra just pushed in and won pretty easily.
Well, GG is called from KwarK, and surprising game, honestly. I wasn't expecting two-fact, first of all, on that map. I feel like two-facting when your main's on low ground is quite risky inherently. It's just so much easier to camouflage, or it's harder to camouflage. But also on a map that's so long distance like that, without proxying a second factory, it seems really risky. But I think KwarK went too hard on the greed. You know, he went robotics before range. I think that's, I mean, probably if he had went straight range, maybe he could have held.
Yeah, and the fact that, I mean, I just think he didn't see it. He didn't, or maybe he saw it, but he didn't process it. And that cost him the game here.
Yeah, well, Ultra does take the lead here, 1-0, but it is going to be KwarK's map pick, so definitely has a lot of options. We saw him go for Heartbreak Ridge against cRoSs, though, which was an interesting pick because it's possibly the most cross map there is. What do you think he's going to go for? I mean, he could pick Revolver, right? Like,
I think he could pick Revolver, he could pick Heartbreak Ridge, and even Ascension. But I think Revolver is going to be his choice here.
Yeah, because he already played game 1 against Ultra, and I feel like having a repeat on a map that you kind of dominated gives you a pretty decent edge, even though, you know, in reality, I think Revolver is a very good Terran map. But he might put Ultra on the spot, be like, kind of skill check him, like, okay, this might be a good map for you, but you played poorly last game, so, you know, you have to show me that you can play better this game.
And actually, it is Heartbreak Ridge. Yeah, so no surprise here. And I'm crossing my fingers that we're going to actually see the 12 Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting. I have no idea what TVP looks like on this map these days. So we'll have to see what KwarK chooses to go for. I think overall, though, I mean, I don't know, where are these statistics, like the TLPD statistics? Oh, okay, so yeah, these are the Wikipedia statistics. I mean, PVT, I didn't even know. I thought this map would be a bit more balanced, but 57%, 58% win rate is insane for Protoss. But yeah, good map choice. I think the game is ready. We are going to get into it. Game number 2. This is do or die for Ultra.
All right, left side spawn on Heartbreak Ridge. We have Ultra in the color blue.
On the right side, it is KwarK, once again in the red Protoss.
All right, so, oh, already have something. Is this going to be a pylon there? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Dude, this is like what happened the first game. We're like 50 seconds in. But, yeah. What do you think about this map, Sari? Like, what's Protoss's go-to? Like, what's the plan here? Generally,
I mean,
are we going carriers every game? Are we going reavers every game?
I think you gotta. I mean, KwarK is a player who will willingly admit his limitations, and he just doesn't go reaver in basically any matchup, not even against Protoss.
Yeah.
He can't control them well enough to make them efficient, so he just opts to go for other routes, and he's not a gateway. I mean, he's not a reaver player, and he's not a gateway man either. And carriers, while they are strong on this map, I think opening carriers is a little bit risky. So I think you're usually going to see arbiters and then transition into carrier on this map. That's very strong for Protoss. It's very hard for Terran to deal with. As Terran, though, I mean, one of the features on this map that's annoying is your third is a little bit awkward to take.
Yeah.
It gets close by air, but it's pretty far via ground. Like, you have to go all the way around this ramp in the middle. I like Ultra checking behind his nat minerals. Sometimes Protoss will proxy there.
Yeah.
And I mean, as Terran, this map wasn't popular when 2-1 was born, like the 2-base 2-1. But I think that's actually a pretty strong option on this map.
Dude, so you know what I remember? Well, actually, it looks like it is going to be gate into Nexus.
Yeah, so 16.
sick story here, but I'm actually just gonna not say it.
Yeah, go ahead. We have time. Like nothing's gonna
No.
happen here.
Dude, you know what? Where do you think Quark got his name from? Is it like that physics thing, Quark, like quarks from physics, or is it like the Quark from Ratchet and Clank?
I want to go with the physics thing.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah,
Have you played Ratchet and Clank?
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Dude, every time I think of Quark, I think of that character. I feel like it's so fitting. I'm glad that didn't miss it, because I feel like if he had no idea what I was talking about, it would just land real flat, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, but God, every time I watch Quark play, I just think of that guy, man. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that's like one of the hammest characters in Ratchet and Clank. It's hilarious. I don't know if the chat even knows what I'm talking about. They're probably all boomers that have never played like a console game, but
I think maybe 10% of chat got it.
yeah, maybe.
All right, so we have the same opener from QwarK. I really like when Protoss, they don't commit with this one zealot. Like it makes no sense to, like, you're forcing Terran to make this bunker to block with this SCV for a while. Like, job is already complete. No reason to sacrifice it to get, I don't know, a couple swipes on a Marine. And QwarK is doing actually the same build he did last game.
Yeah.
The 16, 16, 16, and Ultra just playing standard factory expand. Although it's going to be slightly late because bunker plus 4 Marines before command center.
Yeah, that's one thing about Ultra is I've seen him consistently do today. He always takes this command center off 3 depots. And generally you want to take it off 2 depots. And he's already really far behind. He doesn't really have any compensation for this early Nexus. The worker count is going to start skyrocketing for Protoss. Doesn't look like Ultra has vultures out on the map. Maybe if Ultra actually gets really good mine placement, kind of forward mine placement, but if he went for a tank follow-up, no, that looks like a vulture. So he definitely needs to get at least vultures out on the map, or else I think he's insanely far behind from this opening.
So while he does have a worker lead now, that's going to evaporate pretty soon. And
well,
actually, is QwarK not making probes already?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, no, he is making probes.
Yeah, but he cut quite a lot of probes, so maybe not that as big of an advantage as it could have been. That's the one thing about a lot of these early Nexus builds is there are Protosses that feel like, and he actually got double Zealot. There's a lot of Protosses that feel really scared after going for early Nexus, and they generally go into this 2-gate type thing, and they cut a lot of probes, and it turns out that the fast Nexus isn't that good. And there are Protosses that will just kind of play on the edge and get a huge economic advantage. This time around, QwarK actually made a lot of units and cut a decent amount of probes. So overall, Ultra is pretty even, though being forced to mine up your front base with vultures is never where you want to be as Terran.
Oh man, there's still one mine here, and the bunker is in range of the Dragoons, so it's got to be careful. But yeah, basically he needed his vultures out on the map earlier so that QwarK couldn't do this kind of movement where he just goes straight to the Terran base. But I mean, he did lay mines with 1 vulture. He is denying the 3rd as well. Looks like that actually got killed. QwarK can actually take that right away. Tank finally out, so he will be able to push this back. He's got to be careful here. Dragoons are pretty low though, and there are no zealots left. Oh, actually, there is 1 zealot.
There's 1 zealot. It's going to tank up a lot of shots. I don't know if it has high ground there, but actually the Marines do go down. This is 3 SCVs to pull. I mean, it's kind of weird because these SCVs are not inconsequential. He's basically giving up his worker parity here. For what reason? I don't know. I mean, I guess he did push those goons away. Looks like 3 factory follow for Ultra. I'm assuming he has... Well, I'm assuming he has a second armory, but when you don't have a second gas with this 3 factory... I think Ultra doesn't actually have an armory, so...
yeah, no armory, 7 minutes, no second gas. So this is a little bit unorthodox from Ultra because...
He has no eBay either. Like, yeah, super risky, man.
And QwarK actually faked the 3rd by dealing with the vulture that was there, but then not taking it and adding gateways. So if Ultra does go for some kind of timing, it could backfire pretty hard. And maybe... QwarK sees that there's no detection at all because Protoss I mean, all Terran needs to do is scan and see that there's no third and see that there's a lot of gateways, but Ultra doesn't have anything. He just has factories. He doesn't have detection. So only now getting a turret, but like,
yeah, this is honestly not these days. Well, there's a couple different ways of playing TvP, but the predominant way that, for example, Light and Rush are playing, who are obviously by far the best TvPers in the world, is they always play Fact Armory and Rush upgrades. And there's like the last style where he will play with like a slower armory but kind of spam turrets and mines to hold shuttles and take fast third bases. But Ultra's just not doing any of those things. He's kind of just sitting on 3 factory, doesn't really have fast upgrades, doesn't have a fast third base. He is getting some map control with these vultures, which is definitely what you want to see, especially versus kind of the more passive style that KwarK is playing without the shuttle and Reaver. So if he does get a couple of probes, that will shift the game back into his favor. But if I'm Protoss, I'm feeling decently comfortable in this situation.
So it's just going to be another timing from Ultra. KwarK's third is a little bit late, but it's not super late. KwarK is mining out that mineral patch behind his main. It's actually interesting how the pathing works. Like if you send probes from your main and natural through your third, they will actually try to go through the back path unless you click the leftmost patch. Like that's a small feature here on this map. And I mean, this timing, it just seems slow, like really slow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a weird build, to be honest with you. It's like a delayed 5-fact. Generally, 5-fact, you would want to be putting down your 5 factories like around 8 minutes. I don't know, like 7:30. And he finished his 5-fact at like 10 minutes. And doesn't really have upgrades to show for it. He's finally getting some damage with these vultures. But overall, Ultra is just in a very poor position, I feel like.
Like, what does he actually do from here? Because he's trading off a lot of vultures to get harassment done. But if you're going for a timing and you're trading off all your attacking units, like, it's just, he's not well synchronized with how he's doing his build. And KwarK behind us, he's actually not going to go into Arbiters or Carriers. He's going into a Storm, which is actually pretty good against the timing. Storm is just really cost efficient, and all he needs to do here is plant like 4 more gateways, and then Ultra is in a bind because he can't move out right now. He traded too many vultures away, and he can't really take a third this late. It doesn't make sense what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think it's definitely a difficult situation here for Terran, and it's not quite clear what his plan is. You know, again, generally these days, Terran has like well, there's one plan really, and it's I'm gonna play upgrade style and just play for 3-2 in late game, or I'm gonna delay the upgrades to play for a faster third to do a solid 2-1 push or something like that. But Ultra kind of setting himself up for neither. He's setting himself up for this really delayed third base. He is getting some damage with these vultures though, so I have to say that. And inadvertently as well, or like implicitly, this type of play where you're getting a higher factory count early before expanding and putting a lot of vulture pressure out on the map does constrict the Protoss quite a bit. So you can see that KwarK doesn't actually have a 4th base, and it's going to be really hard for him to get a 4th base. And he's having to deal with these vultures, and oh my god, that was a huge mine hit. And these vultures are also killing a lot of probes. So I have to give credit to Ultra. At least he is making the most out of the situation with his vulture movement and really kind of containing the Protoss in a sense. But he is going to have to deal with the fact that his upgrades are a bit late and his third base is a bit late. It doesn't look like KwarK is really dealing that well with these vultures though.
Yeah, so one weakness in KwarK as a player is just he's a little bit slow. Mechanically, he's not on par with a lot of other BSL players. And you can see just him struggling with vulture movement is a big tell. and Ultra is abusing this. Now, the way Ultra is playing is not particularly effective normally, but because he's able to do so much damage with these vultures, I think he's gonna end up fine. And like you just see, more and more vultures are streaming out. Like Ultra can slow play this as long as the vultures are getting damage. If he just gets his starport and goes for upgrades now, he can actually even take a 4th at the minute only. Like he still has a lot of time to get all this done, as KwarK is still quite a way away from having an arbiter with stasis energy.
Yeah, I mean, so far Ultra is just making this build work, so credit to him, honestly.
And on top of this, like he hasn't lost a single tank, so that tank count is growing. And look, another effective run by with these vultures, getting probes, mines going off on the zealots. Like this is all very cost efficient for Ultra.
Yeah, so retrospectively, Ultra is playing this build out really well. Like he got the early. Basically, if you look at this as Terran getting the early factories to just exert map control through vultures, it makes a lot of sense, and he's making it work. But in large part, it is Protoss kind of just misplacing the Dragoons, but it is hard on this map, I suppose, to cover all the angles. And, you know, I think a lot of Protosses against Terran, they're used to kind of running around the map like they own it. And they tend to play overly aggressive with their Dragoons and not as like passive or as defensive as they should be. And if you kind of get early vultures, you can really pressure Protosses down that play like that. Because most Protosses are used to the super turtley style of Terran, where Terran basically does nothing but mass off of 3 bases. So far, Ultra's style is really paying dividends, and you can see it by his supply lead, by his worker lead, and we'll have to see if he can convert that into a win. I mean, 1-1, that is really kind of poor timings for his upgrades. 14, 15 minutes in to finish 2-1. If he does finish it in the next couple of seconds here, is really late.
Okay, so he has done a lot of vulture harassment. KwarK is taking a 5th, but you can see like his workers at a lot of bases aren't mining. He doesn't have a lot of gateways. KwarK is quite poor for a Protoss at this stage of the game. You can see Ultra's actually just making a 4th right there. Like he's in no rush to move out. He's just waiting a little bit. +2 is going to be, he's going to actually finish 2-2 in about, I don't know, 2 minutes. So it's very, very late.
Yeah.
But he's bought himself time with the vulture harassment. KwarK underutilizing walls though. Like he could have walled off his 3rd with pylons. That's one less location to defend, and the vultures were able to inflict a lot of damage because like he just had to move goons from here to there.
Yeah.
And this is how many factories? 9 factories from Ultras versus what I think is like 8 to 10 gateways from KwarK. He is getting +1 on air weapons, so this will be a later transition into carriers.
Yeah, that is how KwarK likes to play. We'll see if he goes for any recalls here. The recall timing is going to be late, and you know, when it's late, the later the recall is, the more time Terran has to have turrets and mines up. So generally, if you are planning on recalling, you want to do it really early. And you can see Ultra is more than prepared for any kind of arbiter play in his main. So yeah, I mean, KwarK's basically going to have to fight against a Terran army straight up and hope to buy enough time for his carrier transition. If he can get the carriers, they can be quite decent on this map, but I don't know, like, Ultra's just setting himself up nicely. I like how he's taking a 4th base as well before pushing out. He's being very, very patient.
Yeah, he's set up for a recall. Like once he pushes, he only wants to focus on a push. He doesn't want to focus on defending recalls or trying to take another base. I'm a little bit concerned for KwarK because I don't know how much practice he actually got on this map, but I'm looking at his main layout and there's not a ton of room or a ton of preparation for additional gateways. So this is the amount of gateways he's going to be on. So this ground fight that he's going to take, he has to stall long enough so that he can get at least 4 carriers out. And Ultra is waiting for that +2, which is going to finish in about 20 seconds. And with this 4th base, he should be able to take a 5th pretty soon. Looks like this Arbiter has stasis, but not enough for recall. I mean, is KwarK going to commit to an attack here at this very narrow choke?
He might. I mean, he has to do something. I feel like he's maxed on one Arbiter. I guess he has one Arbiter and a couple of Templars, so maybe he can take a decent fight. But one problem Protoss generally has in this matchup is if they get maxed out on the wrong composition, they can get smashed in the fight and just instantly lose there. So sometimes as Protoss, you want to go for a bust just so that you can remax on a more cost-efficient composition with more Arbiters, more Templars. Looks like he stasis a tank and an SCV, and he's going to go for it from all sides, but this was really a butchered attack. He's trying to just free up supply so that he can start carriers. He has 4 Stargate carrier, but not the best upgrades. At the same time, Terran doesn't have the best upgrades either, and carriers are not an auto-win. You know, if you just get a bunch of Goliaths, you can easily contest carriers late game, especially with good upgrades. And now Ultra has a huge timing to go and kill a couple of bases before the carriers are out. Hopefully he's on top of his scanning. You know, if you've ever played KwarK, you know he definitely likes to eventually transition into carriers. So I think, and Ultra, I'm sure he's played KwarK before, so I'm sure that's at the back of his mind to scan and be prepared. So he needs to push out here and kill a couple of bases before carriers are out. Oh my god, so many Dragoons get evaporated by those tanks. KwarK is really on the back foot. He's going to lose this top left section of the map, and he's not going to have any bases to fall back on once these carriers come out.
Yeah, critically, he doesn't have bottom right, because bottom right to defend with carriers is actually a super easy base to defend. And he can't just like stall and lose top left and top middle, because then he won't have any mining. He also doesn't have a ton of gateways, so losing ground army is actually pretty painful because he can't remake it very quickly. And you can see Ultra, this is the correct base to push. You can kill this base, you can kill top left, and that's a decent stasis. That's another decent stasis. Man. But look at the ground army from KwarK. It's just a control group of units and some high Templars. It's just not enough.
Yeah, those were massive stasis. But when you don't have any units to follow it up, and on top of that, I mean, KwarK actually has so many probes, and you know, high probe count can be good if you're playing a certain style. But actually, I think high probe count when you're playing with like carriers isn't that good, because then your ground army is just totally worthless. I think he needed to get rid of some of these probes or something. Because he has no way of contesting these ground units.
Yeah, because he's on 3 bases now, and 76 probes divided between 3 bases, just too many. And every like probe is gonna eat into either his carrier count or his ground army. And now the carriers are out, and they do have decent upgrades. Remember, Terran had really delayed upgrades, so he's gonna have a window here when he could actually clean up some Terran ground army. But before that, he's gonna lose this base.
Yeah, and I mean, these carriers, you can see, I mean, even though they're uncontested, they're taking a while to kill these tanks. Like, 4 carriers focusing down the tank, it barely kills it. And finally, Goliaths are going to join this composition, and they're probably going to ward off these carriers. He's not microing them, might lose 1. No, he does notice. With the Arbiter in conjunction, though, it can be quite a strong composition, Arbiter carrier. You can get some nice stasis off. He has enough energy for stasis. There's not a lot of Goliaths. He needs to just buy enough time for 4 more carriers to pop out, so he can get up to 8 carriers, so he can really start sniping units. But even if he gets to critical mass carriers, well, I mean, Ultra didn't kill top left. Ultra's running out of resources himself, and I don't know, man. I kind of think Protoss is in a good spot.
Right, so it's looking a little bit dicey. Like, I don't know why Ultra committed and lost all these tanks like that. That seemed a little bit suspect. It looks like he is going to send more tanks to top left. But look at these DTs. This is perfect. Like, the attention from the Terran will be diverted enough. If you can just distract Terran here with the carriers and then hit with the DT there. Yeah. It looks like nice scan there from Ultra, but the DTs did buy enough time. I think the carriers will be in time to rescue this base. Also saves the Nexus at 12. But behind this, like, Ultra's just pushing where the carriers aren't. And this is why having so few gateways really hurts, because normally you have a large gateway army as well at the natural, and Ultra couldn't get away with this. But look at this. More probes gonna go down here. The push also distracting. KwarK has 1 Arbiter left over, but soon he's gonna have very, very low mining.
Yeah, and these carriers are gonna get caught in the middle of the map. So many 3-3 Goliaths. I don't think carriers are... Oh, he actually recalled the carriers into his main, which was pretty smart, but missed 2 of them. So did donate those for free. The upgrades on the actually that recall was really clutch because he got those carriers away from the Goliaths. But the issue for Protoss is that he's not actually mining anymore once this top left base goes down. I think he maybe still has a couple of resources at his natural, but he needs to kill this command center here from Terran to have any chance in this game. These carriers are getting a good trade off onto these Goliaths. One goes down though, but cleaning up a control group of Goliaths for 1 carrier is a decent trade, especially in this low econ situation. And although Ultra has 60 SCVs, I think he's actually only mining from his mineral only. I think his third is probably almost depleted. Yeah, he still has a couple of resources, but if this command center goes down, dude, Sari, I think Protoss has done it, man.
Okay, so we gotta remember there's a large Goliath army, but it's actually getting caught off guard by the ground army. This is why you want Dragoons in conjunction with your carriers. Like Goliath movement becomes a lot harder, but I mean Ultra, the thing that's helping him is that KwarK has very, very little mining. So yeah. For example, while he's being pushed back now, like if KwarK has runs out of minerals, he can no longer make interceptors. So even though Ultra lost that base, he still has enough of a ground army that he can kill interceptors. Yeah. And a straight up fight, I think Ultra still wins here. So I mean, KwarK really needs to get those probes to work. He probably needs to mix in a couple High Templars and more Dragoons so he can actually fight the Goliaths. It is 3 mech now, and here we go. Tanks not gonna do much. They try to get the Nexus, which is a smart play. But here we go. Here's the Goliath ball, and can KwarK actually hold this?
Yeah, he has stasis to work with, but he only stasis 2 Goliaths. I wonder what's better here, to stasis tanks or Goliaths. That's a huge group of tank stasis, so the Dragoons are going to offer a lot of support to these carriers, but just so many Goliaths. The Interceptors are going to be dying, but they're not really dying that fast, and there's still a couple of Dragoons. I think this is really hard to call, actually, but I think Protoss is whittling down the Terran army, and the Goliaths aren't actually targeting down carriers, so, dude, KwarK's done it.
Okay, looks like the High Templar gets in to help a little bit, but the key there was like the Dragoons just tanked so much fire. The Goliaths weren't actually targeting carriers, they were targeting interceptors. Not enough died, and like the supplies are in Ultra's favor, but look at the work count. That's mostly in workers for Ultras. He just doesn't have a standing army now.
Yeah.
And basically when you have this many carriers, all you need is 1 base worth of mining, and then you'll be perfectly fine. You don't need to make any more carriers.
Yeah, well, no, you're totally right. I mean, he just needs enough mining to basically supplement interceptor production, but, well, I don't think Ultra's out of this just yet, actually.
Yeah, Ultra did actually double expand, which is an incredible play here. He needs that extra income after losing all that army, and unless KwarK can actually utilize maybe like small...
Oh, no,
he's splitting off the carriers. He's splitting off the carriers.
You can't do this.
Okay. I thought he was going to commit, but basically, you never want to split carriers.
Carriers. That was such a huge blunder. Yeah, it's really hard for Protoss to deal with this because the carriers are actually, you know, despite them being flying units, they're probably the most immobile units Protoss has. Like, counterintuitively, right? And in these situations, KwarK would have to commit to killing the bottom right expansions, because if he doesn't, I think Terran just outproduces him. Okay, it looks like he will split them. I mean, he has to do something about this economy, but he has to defend his own economy, because if this Nexus goes down, he can't replenish his interceptors. Is this enough units from Terran to break this, though? That is 4 carriers with... It's just not enough tanks. You need to have enough tanks to actually deal with ground units. So it looks like KwarK's going to be able to defend this Nexus, but is he going to trade these Goliaths for carriers?
He's actually losing carriers here. Even though it was only 4 Goliaths, he was able to take down 2 carriers there critically. We have a hilarious command center over this Nexus. Like, is this flying SCV? What's going on here?
Well, Ultra's going to lose a lot of his SCVs, but, you know, as long as he's still mining from this one base, I don't know, man. I don't think Ultra has any units. He actually has 40 supply worth of SCVs in a total of 80 supply. So he has 40 supply of units versus basically like the, what is that, like 50 supply of KwarK, or, well, it's pretty even now. But I just don't think the problem is that Terran needs to have a certain amount of units. Like, they have to hit this threshold with like their tank count to actually deal with ground units. And if you just send pure Goliath around the map, it's not going to be good enough, because just a couple of goons or zealots mixed in with carriers going to be more than enough to deal with the Goliaths. And these Goliaths are going down before they actually target down any of the carriers. Ooh.
It looks like he's going to get one at least.
This is huge, actually, for Terran, though.
Yeah, if you get 2, then, I mean, as long as KwarK has the minimum 4. Oh! Why did he stop? What's going on here?
Oh my god, dude. He gets that third, or that second carrier. Will he get the third? I mean, KwarK... Oh my god, this is coming down to the wire. But I think KwarK, because he established these two nexuses, if he just spams... Well, he doesn't have that much gas. But now he just needs to make ground units. Like, I think making more carriers would actually be a trap. Yeah, he's making an Arbiter.
KwarK actually doesn't have any gas. Like, any. And he can get more gas from the start. I mean, one Vulture gonna deny the last gas mining he has. But this is very, like, they have so little economy. I think Ultra just doesn't have anything, though. Like...
Yeah.
This ground army, how can Ultra actually do it? Like, he has a single control group of SCVs mining at this base. He can't really take another. I think he should really float an SCV or command center and take bottom right. And I mean, another thing is these nexuses are actually extremely low. And vultures in these low economy situations are actually pretty powerful. Like, they can move around the map, lay mines. But I mean, Ultra just has nothing. And it's 2 bases versus 1, which is putting a timer on Ultra to do something.
Yeah, Protoss is going to start quickly outpacing Terran at this point with the double nexus going. And you're totally right about making vultures. Well, GG. Ultra calls it. And we're tied up 1-1, coming down to the rubber match between these two players. And that was like as close as it gets, man. I mean, I really thought KwarK was done for after that mid game. Ultra played it beautifully. But once he had that initiative on the map, it wasn't really decisive with his attacks. He kind of went in the middle of the map, but didn't segment his army off well enough to like kill enough nexuses.
And he didn't kill top left. Like, if he had killed 12 and top left, then KwarK just has no mining for the interceptor. And also during those fights, it seemed like the Goliaths weren't doing anything despite being 3-3, and like, he wasn't really killing interceptors. He killed a couple of carriers, but only when KwarK left unattended. But in all the big fights, the carriers actually dominated. And even though KwarK had a very small ground army, that small ground army really helped. Like, the Dragoon High Templar support really helps the carriers deal with the Goliaths.
Yeah, no, you're totally right about that. But yeah, KwarK kind of salvages that game, I think, from definitely a disadvantageous mid game. And that's going to be huge. You know, you always feel good about bringing back a game like that. And game 3, you know, it is going to be Ultra's map pick. So he can definitely pick a map that he's more comfortable with. I have to say Heartbreak Ridge is definitely a hard map to play TVP on these days. It's just so unlike a lot of the modern maps. And, you know, although it's definitely playable, you have to be practiced, right? You have to be well practiced, especially as Terran. So we'll have to see. I mean, there's a lot of good picks for Terran, though, in this map pool. Revolver's a good pick. Okay, Good Night is going to be the map here for Ultra. Personally, I think this is actually a really decent Protoss versus Terran map. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I agree. This is, I mean, Revolver, I think Ultra, because he lost on it. And he doesn't want to play it. And there aren't, like, Ascension. I guess he's not comfortable with the ramp list. But Good Night is also not that good of a map for this matchup.
Well, I think the game is ready. So we are going to get into the final game of Group B here. Who's going to make it out? KwarK or Ultra?
All right, in the top left spawn, we have the red Terran UltrA.
And in the bottom right, we do have KwarK in that Protoss. Blue Protoss or something. Yeah, but honestly, I think I think Good Night, you know, a lot of these 4-player maps recently have been pretty favorable for Terran versus Protoss. But I think Good Night just has that something about it, just how the bases are laid out, just how some of the pathing is on this map, that I think it's actually a really good map for Protoss versus Terran.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, compared to Revolver, everything's
Yeah,
just more difficult for
yeah.
Terran. And additionally, we have cross map, and I think cross map is just like a dream scenario on a 4-player map. When you're Protoss, you can, if the game goes long, of course, you can pretty much take a ton of bases. And if you get in a scenario where you have 3 mains, no matter what Terran has, you just win. It looks like KwarK, no 12 Nexus again. So just, I think he just, is he going to go for that 16 Nexus build again? And
Oh, well.
Ultra going to go up for an early scout, or actually normal scout, and no scout from KwarK. So everything from Ultra's perspective has looked the same. It's KwarK the one who's mixing things up. And in both long macro games, KwarK actually won. It was only against the 2-fact that Ultra has won. So maybe KwarK is confident here, I would say.
So Ultra's actually going for a 12 scout. He went for like a 12 scout 12 gas, which is a bit risky. I think it actually delays your middle income significantly enough that your factory is also delayed, and it can really kind of, it's just not the smoothest opener. So we'll see. You know, sometimes that can have repercussions. Meanwhile, KwarK is going for the scoutless build. Once again, that I think we saw him do against basically
Okay,
Ultra in game 1.
so you can look at Ultra's build. He has 100 gas, but he has 130 minerals. And yeah.
Yeah, this factory's late. And not only is the factory late, but he actually also delayed one of his SCVs. So like, yeah, not ideal, but some, you know, these are minute things that don't always play out. They're not really significant, but it's not really ideal. Looks like Ultra does not scout KwarK though, so I don't think it'll matter. I think he's still gonna get his his natural up on time. I'm gonna be curious to see if he goes for that 3rd depot expansion, or if he will try to get an expansion off 2 depots.
All right,
And
and we
KwarK's going for
actually,
the, yeah, he's doing the same build he did on Revolver.
and Ultra actually pretty concerned about a Zealot incoming his way because he pulled an SCV preemptively, made a lot of Marines again. And again, this is not how you optimize your early game PvT, TVP. And this is what, when I mentioned that Ultra was weakest in this matchup, I didn't say it was because of his mechanics, because his mechanics are solid. It's more about his build optimization. Again, we see a 3rd depot before command center, and you're just hurting yourself by
Yeah.
like delaying certain things in this matchup early game. Because look at KwarK's Nexus. KwarK is not playing risky at all, and this
Well,
Nexus is super fast. It's 4 minutes, and that's when we see the command center. So just really late on that timing.
KwarK's actually, he skipped range again for his Nexus and for his robotics. So this is going to be huge from him if Ultra chooses to just play a more passive line, which it looks like he's going to do. He's building that bunker. He's going for Vulture Speed, which Vulture Speed into really fast eBay. I don't like this eBay at all. There's really no reason to get this eBay. He scouted the Nexus. Yeah, this eBay is just a blunder for sure. It's gonna slow down his build even more so than it already has been. Going for the Vulture Speed is a cool tech because, you know, most Protosses expect mines. They don't expect that early run by, and you can hit a nice timing before there's ever a wall. But if Protoss puts an early pylon at their natural and keeps all their Dragoons tightly there, they can definitely ward this off if they know it's coming. But it's hard to read. So the only problem is when you don't go mines, if these vultures don't trade well for probes, you have no compensation. Like, you have no map control. You're totally naked. Protoss can just kind of walk across the map. But he's gonna get mines anyway. Yeah, this is weird.
He's also getting a turret at his net, so he's playing like covering bases, but not really getting more Marines. Like I'm not really sure what this is at this point, because if you're gonna go for speed, the whole point is to hit a timing.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna wait for mines on top of that, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Just go mines right away.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Sari.
Oh my god! But that being said, here we go. Perfect.
Really sick mind games, actually. That was like an Overlord bait almost. And he gets... Oh my god! I can't... Dude, both games we're talking about... look at Ultra's build, but he makes it work. He makes it work. He gets inside, gets a couple of mines off, but the Vulture dies before it really kills... I think he only killed 2 probes. 2 probes for 2 Vultures. Protoss will take that any day of the week, especially with a faster Nexus. These mines are going to be annoying, but I think the Observer is out on time. He's going to clear this up. And overall... this was not the best opener for Terran because, mind you, like, oh my god, what? He's taking a command center off this opening? There's no way in hell he's going to be able to land that on time.
Yeah, especially with KwarK already on 3 gateways, and the fact that he made so many Vultures before his first tank. I think he's in big trouble here. Yeah. KwarK is actually just teching up really fast, so I like this from KwarK. I mean, the Vultures just didn't do enough. Like, yeah, they gotta do more than get 1 probe per Vulture. And now KwarK should feel pretty confident here.
Yeah, it's a huge investment too, because he got both range and speed and mines. And eventually you want to get siege mode as well, because without siege, like, your front is a sitting duck. Like, if Protoss ever, you know, generally if you're a Protoss player and you play against something like this where Terran's initial Vultures actually do no damage, and you know they went for this opening that Ultra did, you need to just run your Dragoons across the map, because Terran will never have a bunch of... They won't have anything substantial. You have to basically force Terran to have siege mode, right? But having siege mode and tanks on top of getting mines and speed, and then also like your +1 and whatever, it's like impossible. So you have to pressure the Terran in this situation, but KwarK instead, he's taking such a defensive line. He's going for Stargate right away, trying to take a 3rd base. So all in all, Ultra's not going to get punished at all for this. And I almost feel like Ultra will be able to just lift that 3rd command center and take the 3rd base right away off of virtually nothing, which is never what you want to see as Protoss.
Yeah, because he has 3 tanks, and it's 8 minutes. Like, he basically has nothing. KwarK could be on top of his base right now, but I mean, I don't know if this is a choice or just a limitation, because all these things require skill and APM and mechanics. And again, KwarK, like, we seen him struggle against Vulture movement, but another thing you could do against when Terran plays like this is you can just go and take bases and tech up. And it looks like Ultra's actually gonna explode in factories, so not gonna go and take a more defensive and long-term plan. I think he wants to follow us up with an attack.
Yeah, I mean,
no armory.
Yeah, we've seen this consistently from Ultra today. He does not like building starports, but at the same time, one of the games against DarK, he kind of went for this type of build, but then just expanded behind it. So hopefully the problem is when you're up against Arbiters, like, you need vessels. I mean, the one thing that keeps Arbiters in check is EMP. If Arbiters can just, like, have free reign over your army and stasis without impunity, it would be impossible to win this matchup as Terran. And stuff like double Stargate Arbiter would just be a nightmare. But the reason why Arbiters actually fall off, and you don't necessarily always see double Stargate in higher level play all the time, is because if you have like 4 or 5 Arbiters, they can all get EMP'd potentially, right? And then they're totally worthless. But without a starport, you just cannot contest Arbiters. And without upgrades, you cannot contest Arbiters either. So I don't know. This is looking like the first game that Ultra played versus KwarK. But at least he has a 3rd base.
He has a 3rd base. he has way later upgrades. So this is a 10-minute armory, and he's, I think, just very all in, because there's no way for him to scale even on even bases. If you're on even bases but you don't have starport, you're not in a great scenario against Protoss. And I mean, KwarK can take a 4th eventually, and Ultra's going to be in a tough spot again unless he gets something done. Additionally, it's cross map, so the push is going to take even longer.
Yeah, I'm liking KwarK's position. You know, despite the fact that he didn't really punish that 3rd base, I think that game, like the game should have been over by now, to be brutally honest, because like we saw earlier, Ultra just took the 3rd base off of like 2 tanks or something and like 2 factories. But I mean, you know, KwarK plays a solid game. You know, he's definitely I mean, he's actually a really good player. So taking up into arbiters and getting his infrastructure up is a solid way to play. And you know, now he's looking like in a commanding lead.
Yeah, for his sake, I hope he actually just pylon walls this 3rd. Because 2 cannons, it's gonna deal with the vultures, but not before they kill all the probes. And it's actually a lot easier if he just has a pylon wall. It will buy him so much time. There's no threat of drop, so I'm not really sure why he just doesn't ever pylon wall his 3rds. And here we go. This is annoying. This is the vulture movement we've been talking about, where Ultra just, he manages to find. Oh my god, don't drop the zealots.
Well, dude, imagine that mine actually kills all of them. Well, he's gonna defend this though, and he didn't actually lose any probes, and that's a lot of vultures to lose. And you know, vultures seem expendable, but we're not in a situation where Terran is kind of massing tanks with massive upgrades. Terran's trying to hit a very specific timing, and when we're throwing away our supply like this, we're not hitting that timing. So you actually do not want to ever lose vultures in this situation. You want to mass them up so you can hit your max timing as early as possible. That's the whole concept of this build. But instead, he's playing it like he's playing a late game TVP where you're on like 3-4 bases, you have 3-2 coming, and you're just waiting for like a massive tank ball that will never die. But his tank ball will die, and he doesn't have vessels to support it. So the arbiters will have free reign on stasising everything. KwarK's been building up energy this whole time. Finally, a couple of vultures get in and do a lot of damage, but KwarK senses that, you know, when there's that many vultures being committed on the map, there's not going to be much back at home for defense. But I think KwarK actually just assumed there was a 4th base here, but there just isn't.
Yeah, and again, I mean, just if he just pylon walls this, it makes it a lot easier. There's 1 less location to defend, and I mean, he's, again, vultures coming in, laying mines, getting something done. That tank line, like, unless he gets 2 fat stasis, there's no way for him to attack that. And I mean, we have a slight supply lead here for Ultra. Of course, his tech and upgrades are behind, so it's not that menacing. But KwarK struggling to take a 4th, something we saw on Heartbreak Ridge. And I mean, we do have a lot of arbiters with a lot of energy and no vessel quite yet. But unless he goes for an attack or some kind of bust. Okay, it looks like Ultra's actually the one going for an attack, and I think this is suicidal.
I mean, it certainly is. He has no upgrades. He has no vessels. Stasis is going to come down. All his vultures died before the engagement because he had everything in alliance. That's stasis from 1 arbiter. That arbiter had double stasis. Stasis half the army. These tanks are, what, at best 1-0?
I think they're 1-1 now.
1-1.
And okay, looks like, I mean, KwarK is just moving forward with pure Dragoons. Not enough tanks, not enough upgrades. Looks like the reinforcement from KwarK is actually going to help out coming in from the high ground. It's only goons against tanks though, and looks like some of the goons actually got stuck behind the stasis army, which really hurt KwarK there.
Well, what is going on in this game, Sari? I think KwarK actually took so much damage to like the vulture harassment that he's fallen behind somehow, and despite having no upgrades and no vessels, Ultra might be able to just brute force down KwarK with superior macro.
But if you saw that first fight, like that was so much in KwarK's favor, and then like the Dragoons just got stuck on the stasis army and he couldn't move forward while he was taking tank shells. And with good scans, he was able to see everything, and now it seems like KwarK is on the back foot. Like his fourth is so late. Ultra will be able to take his own fourth now. He did win that fight convincingly. This is a lot of vultures, a lot of tanks. They're moving towards this fourth base that's yet again exposed.
Oh my god, dude, did Ultra do it? I feel like this was actually unwinnable for Terran, and somehow Ultra found a way. Well, it looks like KwarK does have triple arbiters, but these tanks are spaced out nicely, and I don't think all the arbiters have energy. Scan does go late though, and it actually Scan was super late there. Zealots get on top of the tanks. He will be able to clean this up. Not before KwarK loses a couple of probes though, but the Nexus stays intact here. And if he can resaturate this base, he'll be in a decent position. Somehow that one tank shot, because of the high ground, doesn't actually evaporate a lot of those probes. So kind of lucky there from KwarK. But man, Ultra's just rallying units down here. It's gonna be so close, man. This game is gonna start snowballing.
90 energy arbiters here. This is actually pretty important. There aren't any tanks left, but very few Dragoons. And again, the stasis not being used, but with only vultures, he's gonna be forced to retreat. But again, I think behind this Ultra actually took a fourth, and he's working on 2-2. Like 2-2 is almost done, and Protoss managed to take a fourth base, but again, also, I haven't seen a single vessel despite having the tech for it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely should be getting vessels, but he just has such a huge macro, like he has such a huge economic advantage. And, you know, to be quite honest with you, I feel like this is the type of situation where KwarK kind of falls behind because, you know, his APM isn't as high, right? So sometimes he might struggle in these. This is just a pure mechanics brawl. Like Ultra's just trying to make a bunch of units, rally them down. KwarK's trying to make a bunch of units and defend. And despite the fact that KwarK has, you know, strategically up until now has had an advantage, he just can't quite make it up with it mechanically, I don't feel like. It looks like he's gonna go for a bust here. Does he have another stasis to work with? Not quite, but he does have a lot of Dragoons. Not a lot of tanks here from Ultra, and that's one trap that Terran can fall into, is when you're constantly attacking like this, you're not actually building up your tank count. And even though he has a solid supply lead, it's mostly vultures, which don't trade efficiently against Dragoons.
Yeah, and one thing, despite losing his entire army, he did kill all the probes at his base, which is pretty bad for Protoss. Protoss is now on 40 probes, which is, I guess, fine if you can distribute them between your two healthy bases. But look, Ultra relentless with the pressure, and looks like KwarK was trying to take a fifth base here. The units are slightly out of position, but again, look at Ultra's tank count. Like, I'm surprised he's committing to this much aggression with such low tank count.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like he probably, well, it is hard because I think as Terran, if you kind of take the pedal off, or like the foot off the pedal, right? You give Protoss time to stabilize into 5-6 bases and into getting more energy for arbiters, which means, you know, both more stasis and more recall. So I think I totally understand why Ultra feels the need to continuously pressure Protoss, but as we've been talking about, that does not allow Ultra to build up his tank count, which really is kind of the victory condition in general in TVP, is to just get so many tanks that you never lose a fight. And
yeah, I was about to say, I was about to say, it might not matter because Ultra did harass third base at 6 o'clock again, and now I don't know, because there's like, if you can get a stasis on these tanks at the front, that's a nice stasis. I mean, he could deny Ultra's fourth base here. He really has to go now, though.
This is such an insane game. I really don't know who's going to come out on top. They're just sitting there basically like, have you seen those slapping competitions? I feel like that's what I'm watching here. Just both players taking turns at each other. KwarK does have a nice attack here. He is going to pressure this. He has to kill this command center, though. If he doesn't kill this command center, I think the game ends here. He needs to clean up these units. He needs to clean up these SCVs, or else he's done for. But if he does kill this command center, I mean, I think they're pretty much even. You can see both players struggling economically and supply-wise. Dude, I have no idea who's going to win this.
Right. I mean, it's close. Unstasis units coming out, but they don't come out synchronized. And if KwarK just targets the tanks, the tank count is so low that he might be able to keep pushing through here. The upgrades 2-2 on the mech, and you can see that the supplies are pretty close. I mean, that always favors Terran, but if Terran has such a low tank count, it might go in Protoss favor. He doesn't kill the command center, which is huge, because now Ultra, if Ultra can reinforce this, but you can see the Vulture harassment has been doing so much damage to KwarK on the other side of the map. Like, it's just very, like, there's a lot going on in this game, and when that type of stuff happens, I think I'm gonna favor Ultra, just because look, he's just able to reinforce faster, beta macro better, spend his minerals better, and I mean that looked really good for KwarK for a moment, but then you see his 6 o'clock hasn't been mining, and even though like Ultra is barely mining that mineral only, if KwarK had just denied that new base, like he would be in a lot better position. But now looks like Ultra is able to stabilize. He's not pressuring with tanks, like just pressuring with vultures is good enough. He has 3-3 now. Still no vessels, or did I just see the first vessel?
I'm not sure, but honestly,
no vessels.
Yeah, who needs vessels?
No add-on on.
I don't need vessels against arbiters, man. Yeah, honestly, with that command center staying alive at mid left, this game is over. Really, KwarK had to kill that command center. There's no way around it. But you know, if KwarK had killed that command center and Ultra was only mining off his mineral only, this game right now would be about even, despite the fact that KwarK basically lost his entire economy. But because Ultra is basically fully mining from that base, plus still mining from his mineral only, I think that's going to give him just enough resources to pump out of these factories and get another big army going. And with this push, he might be able to end this game. Though, you know, he has 3-3, which is huge, but still no EMP to deal with these arbiters. So, you know, KwarK will be able to stasis whatever he wants.
Oh my god, more harass.
Yeah. These vultures are absolutely ruining KwarK's day, and I don't know.
More harass even. Now is not the time to do it, but the investment of 300 minerals to make a pylon-wise third would have saved KwarK so much suffering this game. Or even just leaving 2 Dragoons on the ramp. Like, either of those things are gonna make it a lot easier to deal with these kind of vulture movements. And now Ultra, this is looking a lot like earlier in the game, just moving vultures around, building up an army, and he knows he has a huge economic advantage. He has a big lead in this game, and looks like as the units are distracted and in this main, Ultra is going to go for another push into the third of KwarK. Arbiter gets picked off. I mean, I guess if you don't go vessels, you just make a lot of Goliaths and you deal with them that way. And I mean, it looks like we're going to see Ultra in the round of 16. Or, right?
I mean, these fat... no, there's no way. 3-3 mech, though, even without half your army, you're still going to win the fight. Yeah. Ultra has done it, man. Dude, this was an insane series, actually, and it's surprising to me. This is such an awesome victory for Ultra. I think...
I mean, I think every single game, the person I thought would win lost.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like, the 2 fact that only went on one
mine,
and then the Heartbreak Ridge game where I thought Ultra was way ahead the entire time after the mid game, and then this game where Ultra just did the weirdest build ever and could have been dead at any point and never made vessels, and he still wins. Like,
no, I
insane
totally agree.
Series.
I 100% agree with you, and it just seeing Ultra come back from, you know, when you go 0-1 supply, it was 130. Yeah, tell him, dude. GG. Those vaults, man. GG's called. KwarK, you know, humble in defeat. Does GG out there. And yeah, man, I mean, honestly, for Ultra to be able to come back after that first game they played, you know, at the start of the broadcast, when you go 0-1, right? And you have to play that person again, it can be quite hard. But he kind of just played his game out and muscled through a victory. And, you know, I think that was just an impressive series from both players. It was really entertaining to watch. And I feel like they were evenly matched. You know, it could have went either way. Both, like, either side could have won.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, all three games could have gone in the other direction. So that's telling you that there was a very close series. And this time around, Ultra was able to pull through. In the end, they actually ended up tied 2-2 if you count the first game. So very, very evenly matched. And that means Ultra is going to be the second player advancing out of this group, with cRoSs advancing first.
Yeah, so surprising because to be honest with you, I think I would have thought KwarK would have made it out of this group, but it was just so close here against Ultra, razor thin margins, and I think, you know, it's a bit disappointing to be KwarK in a sense, because he definitely had the tools to win both games, and I think probably nerves got to him, especially when he stopped defending some of that vulture harassment, and he's going to be kicking himself watching the replays. But all in all, I think he showed some really good games, and you know, at the end of the day, that's what BSL is about and StarCraft is about. I think everyone enjoyed watching those games, and both players should be happy with just you know, the entertainment value they provided to everyone today, because those were fun games, man. They kept me on the edge of my seat, dude. I really didn't know who was going to win that game.
Yeah, while they weren't the cleanest or most optimized openers or games, like it led to scenarios like I rarely ever see.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it was very, very intense how close it was, like razor thin, because that fourth goes down. We're looking at Ultra mining 6 patches. He has to fold his command center to take his fourth. That'll give KwarK enough time to stabilize. And then, I mean, who knows from there, but just razor thin game. And well played by both.
So at the end of today, we have cRoSs advancing in first place here, not dropping a game, though that game versus DarK looked really scary for a second. Despite that, coming through as, I would say, the heavy favorite of this group. And then Ultra rounding out the second place of this group. So congratulations to both of them. They're going to be through to the round of 16. And that's going to be it for, you know, this weekend. Group A yesterday, Group B today. Next week, we're going to have Groups C and D. Of course, D is the group of death. But both these groups look really, really sick. We got Mihu, Tech, Medino, and that's Babo, right? In Group C. Can't wait to watch Mihu, one of, you know, lauded as one of the best Terran players in China, right? And we haven't seen any Chinese players play in the foreign scene since Remastered came out. I feel like there's been, you know, Bonnet has been playing some show matches. I know Zero's working on some show matches with the Chinese players, but it's going to be really exciting to watch them in action. And then after that, Group D, which is going to be the Sunday, probably the most up in the air group. I think a lot of people think this is the group of death. Ziki, Oya, Striker, goes to DarK.
So Ziki, Oya always in the round of 8, it seems like, and goes to DarK. I don't remember the last time goes to DarK didn't make it to the round of 16. And you'd say, okay, Striker is the weakest link, but Striker is a very strong player. He did win Ghost League, and he has improved a ton in the recent months. So a very, very strong group. That's definitely the group of death here. Yeah.
So next week's going to be amazing. No, I had a lot of fun watching today. I don't know how you guys felt about Group yesterday, but it's fun to play, let's just say. But yeah, thanks for the for, you know, first of all, obviously, well, Esports Fund is the main sponsor, but also all the Patreons, Star Lover, at Bombastic General, then got Striker, who's been a Colonel forever, Grail as well, Tupacalypse, the one and only Croat at the Major Plus, then Cuz, Christian Eddington, Martin Horsmar, LML, Linga Pump as the Bombastic Majors. Thank you so much, guys, for your continued support of the BSL. And, you know, of course, guys, head over to patreon.com/bombastic to support the continued hosting. You know, I haven't mentioned this either, but BSL13 also, let's make it happen, guys, but we need your contributions. BSL is an amazing tournament. You can see up here. Oop, there we go. It's an amazing tournament, but it takes a lot to run. behind the scenes, but not just in terms of hours, but also it is not free, right? Like it definitely costs money to, we got to like rent this place out for the studio, in Poland, and this desk isn't cheap, man.
Yeah, Zero flies us over every weekend just to cast.
Yeah, man, I'm having a good time here, man. But definitely, guys. I mean, so far we've ran like all these BSLs really in the past 3-4 seasons, right? Have been like, I mean, we've had esports ones, of course, but also just the contributions of the community have been amazing, to say the least. And I think the BSL shop is still up, right, Zero? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll guys, don't remember the shop. Okay, go buy yourselves the Super Ghosted t-shirts. Wear them outside to your events. You go to parties with them. Talk about BSL to your friends. That's what I do, and that's why I don't get invited much. So yeah, I don't know, Sarah, you got anything else to add to today?
Very, very nice games, and I mean, very exciting matches too, like crazy matches. And I mean, that's what you come to expect in BSL, and we'll have more for you guys next week, next Saturday and Sunday with Group C and D.
Yeah, so see you guys then next Saturday. Once again, every day, 12:30. Well, today was off because, for North Americans at least, because Europe changed time, right? Actually, next week, North America is going to change the time, so be wary of that. But generally, it's going to be at 6:30 Central European time, so make sure to be there always. Same time, same place. See you guys next week.
Have a good one.